Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wappleville. Also, well, happy belated Thanksgiving if you are from the U.S. I'm going to try another Untamed Beast here, and we're going to do our password stuff and all that. But if you remember this one from my recent session, we're going to try and do something really similar to him, except this time we're going to be using all GW paints. I'll be using contrast paints, and look at this, regular GW paints. You can see them out on the palette there. See my palette cameras? I point my finger over there. Now as I do that, I am going to get some of these little widgets going, like the live chat, which apparently is already here. So I don't need to do that. Well, hey, spectacular. Let's get going. And hey there, Mariah, how's it going? All right, because it is, yes, it's 1:53 a.m. That means this, on air soon, goes like that. Yay. So happy. So let's go. Let's make my window a little bit bigger here so I can see it. You won't notice the difference. Let's hold these two guys next to each other so you can't see. We've got the same skulls here on the base. Those are from, I'll show you here, from Green Stuff World. Let me find my little skull. Aha, there we go. So that's what you're looking at there on the base, is these guys right here. Really cool. I like them. It's also the typical kind of cork thing going on here. We'll just do our basic skin tones. Might try some freehand over here on this cloak. It kind of depends. Time, other things. Now also foliage wise. So you see we got the vellum foliage here. That's from Wicked Elf Studios. I'm either going to try and use that, or we will try and do some of this stuff from Woodland Scenics. And I just got a batch of this. This is actually part of a new video series that I'm doing. Look at that. See all those tiny little nifty leaves on there? So we might use something like this. And I'll just, here, let's make a nice little branch of this real quick. And oh, look, it could just kind of go right over here. It could go right over here, something like that. So we might try this stuff out. It's all about options for you. Because I keep showing you the same thing over and over again. Well, yeah, that's great. Oh, and Mariah here is going pretty good. She had a nice holiday. Oh, that is actually a thing. Oh, hey, runs with Caesars. Yes, not scissors. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. I hope everybody had some nice food, and I mean, some of you maybe got to do a turkey bowl type thing. We haven't been able to do the football thing for quite a while. So we've got some regular GW paints out there. We've got Screaming Skull. Over here on the other side, we've got Cadian Flesh Tone. We've got the Bugman's Glow. In the middle, Steel Legion Drab. We got, apparently everybody loves this Rhinox Hide, so I thought I'd throw this out there. But the thinning of stuff, it can depend on what kind of paint you're using. Oh, and I'll try this too. I thought this could be fun. We've got the Pink Horror over here. So one of the reasons, let's take the Green Stuff World paints, and I think you saw some of the videos that I was doing with those. With those, just having them on their wet palette is enough to thin them too much. Creature caster paints can they also can get wacky on a palette, but Reaper paints love being thin. So, I'll just show you two, like right here. This paint doesn't really like the wet palette. This paint doesn't care. It's like Honey Badger. It just likes everything. It is no big deal. Every paint is different. Like this contrast paint here, you thin it with water. Doesn't really like that so much, but you use this to thin these regular paints, and they kind of like this better than water. So I guess that's one thing to always sort of keep an eye out for. What are you using to thin it? I used to use mediums and stuff all the time. Oh, what would you call those things? The flow improvers and all that sort of stuff. I don't really do that anymore. Here's some Wildwood. We got some snakebite leather here. We got some Leviathan Blue over here. Now I'm going to actually reactivate this Leviathan Blue. It's a little bit thick right now. I'm just using some water with it. We just want it to flow a little more. So I think you can see just how much. Let's just get right into this before we lose all of our painting time just talking about different kinds of paints that aren't even on the palette here. So this again, here we'll take some now Leviathan Blue. We're just going to go over here. We're letting these different contrast paints, we're letting those mix together, and we're going to mix them together with regular paints, because the one thing I found that GW paints, they really don't like being thin with water. That's just, and it's a weird thing. Like I said, the Reaper clears and the liners too, they do not mind whatsoever being thin with water. It's just a crazy circumstance. Now I'm just gonna leave this here. So I've been using the army painter. Oh, wait, okay. Yeah, there you go. That will tell you everything you need to know. Those two words, army painter. Outside of their strong tones, the only other army painter thing I would ever use is this. Believe it or not, this is the most fantastic anti-shine ever. The army painter paints, the reason you are struggling with them is because they are, well, let's just say you would never see me using them. I don't want to be unkind about things, but other painters have much more in the way of unkind words for you regarding army painter paints. So that is, if you're having trouble with those, it is not you, it's them in a big way. So that's a yeah, that's your problem there. I think with Jubilee. Oh yeah, is that the Lamian medium there? Yeah, with Caesars. We've got some here, but I keep forgetting to screw around with that. I have some over here. Not in that. What do we got here? No, that's Ard Coat. That's also Ard Coat. And oh, so is it this stuff right here? I like using medium, but water because it's well. There's how many times have you heard me say, "Yeah, I'm just using water because I will paint with a bazillion things." So, all right, I'm gonna find me somewhere in here. I have a new little paint cup thing. Aha! So I'm gonna take this guy, and I mean, why not try it? What the heck? There's Lamian medium. I mean, I got it. Why not screw around with it? So we're gonna isolate that over here so you guys can see. Let's not have it tip over. So I have no idea what this will do, but we're gonna try it. So we're taking some of that snakebite leather. We are going to thin it with Lamian medium and see what happens. Is there a difference between that and contrast medium? A real difference. Oh, let's take some of this Rhinox and do the same thing instead of water. And I can't really tell a major difference right now, but we're going to get a little bit of the contrast stuff in there just to, you can see look how we're varying the color here from more of a tan brown sort of a thing. Let's work in a little bit of green. So that's the Lamia medium. We're taking some green. We're mixing it with the snakebite. Or no, that's the, I'd have to look at the paint jar name. But if you remember with the skulls that we did here, if it's going to be in a jungle environment like this, the bleached skull really not necessarily the way to go. They're going to sort of just be stained darn near black. So let's just grab some more of our Leviathan Blue here. Yeah, it runs with, see, to me, now I don't know what's available. It's different paints are available in different areas. For me, Reaper paint's real easy to get. And I would just, as people said, look, you have to stick with some acrylic paint. You have to choose just one. I would just take the Reaper clears and liners, and everything else could go away. And it's that simple. There are other paints that I really like. The Pro Acryls are nifty. Some of the Green Stuff World paints do interesting things too. Alright, so this is a little bit of the Leviathan Blue, and I think it's Vulpes Pink is your contrast paint there. We're just gonna do a little interior work here with our Rhinox hide. And I'm just going to shove the brush in there because, well, you can't really see what the heck's going on. I can barely see what's going on. Might as well just get some color in there. And I think most folks that are watching this, they are veterans enough of this program to know that if I really had my druthers, I'd be using oil paints every single time. That is my favorite thing to use by far. But for just different reasons, I don't get to use it. Not anywhere near as often as I'd like to. There's just, well, I can't even go into them all. There are that many. Well, and is it that advisable to get that? Oh, what would you say? I don't want to say stuck in a rut, but I know I mentioned this a lot. That sometimes I see so many people giving up on painting. One of the main reasons is they're just bored. It's after a while, it's just not fun anymore. It's like going to work. And it's not because they're trying to make a living at it. It's just, well, it's not really different anymore. There's just nothing fun about it. It's the same old, same old. Part of that has to do with, I know it's maybe a little frustrating. You finally find some kind of technique that works, and then you basically just get so bored doing that same technique over and over again. Just you don't even want to look at miniatures anymore. And don't laugh. I've seen it. I've seen it happen so many times in just the last year, year and a half, 2 years. It's one of the reasons why I bring it up in every single video. Trying to find ways to not get bored. So we're again going with more of the Leviathan Blue, but I'm taking a little bit of, is this Fenris Gray? Fenrisian Gray. Right here. This is another case of sort of using your contrast paint like it's basically a colored Lamian medium. Okay. Oops, sorry, I gotta scroll up here to see. Mariah, I've been only painting a short while. I'm told to good job. Well, actually what would happen is if you had, just want to say good paints, right? We'll just use that phrase. It may not even look any different, but what if it was to take you half the time because you are not fighting against your paints? What if it took you a third of the time? And it doesn't matter if it's for a commission or just for your own personal stuff. Wouldn't it be nice to finish things in 1/3 of the time? Well, we talk about having fun. Well, what is not fun? Being frustrated as all heck and thinking that it's your fault. Miniature painting might be a whole lot more fun. We kind of found this out the hard way when we would work on miniatures that were, well, either not the greatest sculpt or not really a good cast. And we would find that, okay, we could make it look like every other miniature that we did, but the process of making that happen was so excruciating that we never wanted to look at another miniature, at least not from that place again. So now we're taking just more of the Fenrisian Gray. So I'm sorry if I'm sort of preaching while painting here, but it's a message that I'm trying to get across because I've just seen too many people sort of throw up their hands in frustration and say, you know what, maybe I don't like this anymore. And it just doesn't have, well, there's the example right there. Right, you're saying that it's just you're not necessarily happy with your results and you're wondering, well, gee, am I doing something wrong here? We've had that too. We've had it where we're working on a miniature, both Kathy and I, and we kind of have an expectation of what it should look like, and we say, well, what the heck? Did I somehow forget how to paint since yesterday? What is going on here? And it turns out it would be a miniature that it was a neat concept or whatever, a neat design, but the execution and either the casting or the printing or whatever was not sound. And we sort of paid the price for that on the back end. So you can say, sorry if I just kind of forgot to mention what I was doing, but this is the Bugman's Glow, and it's the it's Lauren Forest. I like to take darker flesh tones, mix them with a kind of a camo green like that, because they make some really good. It gives you that greenish tone in your flesh tones right off the bat, instead of trying to artificially add that later. So this is some of the Steel Legion drab and some snakebite leather together. Again, sometimes we're using the Lamian medium as a thinning agent. Now we're just using snakebite leather as a thinning agent that also has color to it. I need to go back up to. Oh, there's a Gary in the house too, and Brian's in the house. Painting a short well. Yeah, let's see. And runs with scissors a lot better. Same with, yeah, brushes. Get a few good ones. We got those. What do you mean? Not everybody can use the Hobby Lobby #8 Miracle Craft brushes? Oh, and Brian's. I like to paint with friends. That is, what would you say? Social painters. We came up with that phrase because that describes Kathy, because she really prefers painting with groups of people. That's why she streams, what is that, 4 days a week now? She's obviously not doing it this week because of Thanksgiving and all that sort of stuff, but she's gonna be, yeah, she'll be back Monday doing her thing. All right, here's we're gonna take some of the Lamian medium, and we just tossed in some, what is this, the Acadian flesh tone, I think. We did that. Now we're gonna take us some Wildwood, and then we're gonna do this, and we're just gonna let all this stuff mix together. Yeah, it's out of control. Now, some people just absolutely freak out when they see this because they say, wait a minute, you're just kind of letting the paint do its thing. And I said, sort of. It's kind of doing its own thing. I'm allowing it to do certain things. May look like it, again, it's just kind of out of control or whatever, but there are some very specific things that are happening here. And oh, what do we got? How many minutes are we into this? About 10 minutes or so? Oh, let's see. Oh, and Gary says painting groups or circles are the best. Oops, and then runs with Caesars. Been working on NMM. Oops. Oh, and we have first last in the house. Hey Al, how's it going? Oh, I'm glad you'll have to send me some pictures of your NMM there, because I got to see that. Because everybody has a little different take on it, which and there just continues to be more different takes on it, which I think is really nifty. Oh, Al says, yeah, solid brush. Paint Mini, a solid result, yeah. It makes blaming your tool a lot harder. Hey, Paul, how's it going? So now you saw I just took some of the. Look at this, it's like bluish gray here. I'm looking at a color on the palette and I say, yeah, let's go with that over here. I look at another color on the palette. Let's go with that. Let's go with this. We're going to take some of that Fenrisian gray. We are going to mix it with ivory, right? Or is this Screaming Skull? Well, it's ivory, but it's called Screaming Skull. Look what we're doing here. We're just going to toss this stuff on here. You say, well, wait a minute. That's not really adding a whole lot of lights and darks and values to it. Well, it might when we do this. Okay. Watch the unholy mess that emerges here. There we go. I just wanted to just have some fun with some super watercolory things with the GW paints just to see what would happen. Now I can go, a couple things I can do. I can take Yield Makeup Sponge, take some of that away. Take a little more away over here. Can even use the brush, take some away. And then, oh, let's go Snakebite Leather and some Vulpus Pink because, hey, we don't have enough weird colors on this blade. Or his bone weapon here, like a big old jaw of something. Look at that. It's all very wet into wet, isn't it? I guess that's why I like the oils so much, because, well, you can do this. Only throughout the entire session, paint's going to stay nice and wet for you. Nice and wet. Look at this. We'll get some of this into here now. So actually, that's kind of an interesting cloak color. I might have to play with that some. I'm even going to let some of this crazy mix get into my fur. It's going to maybe go onto these. I'm going to say those are more tusks than anything else. Okay, let's. Where else can we play with this stuff? So I'll keep checking on the chat here because there's lots of folks. Dum da dum. Oh, Al says something here. They mentioned me in regards to the camera setup, but didn't catch the name. Oh, so they might be using the Hovercam 8 because, well, they saw me using one of those at ReaperCon and they were all a Twitter about that. So I'm guessing maybe they got some of those for themselves. Right now I'm using a Logitech 920. Well, one of them. Actually, the one I'm using for a palette cam here, see I'm shaking it right now. That is actually an ancient, well, it's an ancestor of the Hover 8. Believe it or not, I think I got that thing somewhere in the neighborhood of 7, 8 years ago. This thing still, it's basically a classroom presentation camera of all things. So I'm waiting on well, it's an old machine that's being fixed. When that one is fixed, that's when I can try my first crack at using one of these Hover 8 cameras as a webcam to be the primary camera. So we'll see how that works. But look at this already. I haven't done any kind of shading here. I've just done a series of glazes. I'll let this all mix together. We got differences in tones. We got some value differences. We got reds and grays and greens. And we didn't have to struggle. And now look at this, I have plenty of, what shall we say, that the colors are set up now. I can darken some things like this. I can lighten some things. I can put midtones in there. And these skulls, I can put some more of these bluish grays. What the heck? Let's start playing with that right now. I'm gonna go look at the chat back here. Oh, First Last asked. First Last says that it's painful to watch, but you just the results are the results. And I understand. And now well, I don't know how. There could be a sadistic part of me that enjoys. Somehow I can sense the pain here through the internet, and I just enjoy the torment because one creature's torment is another's delight. Apparently, according to Q. Yeah, it was like the third season episode in Next Gen. There. So I'm already starting to work one of these super sort of blended colors here. We're getting some midtones together. I do not often get to work with just GW colors, so this could be fun. Sort of a last minute thing. I'll also be trying some of these with the Green Stuff World paints. I'll be trying some with the Creature Caster paints. But I very, 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 very seldom work with just one line of paint because, well, let's put it this way, and I don't want this to sound negative or something like that, but if there's 20 paint lines and every one of them did exactly the same thing, what's the purpose of having 20 different paint lines? The paint lines should be they do some little thing different. Maybe not a big thing, but something different. The Creature Caster paints, they're formulated to be different. Obviously the contrast paints are formulated to be different. The Green Stuff World Intensity inks, formulated to do different things. The Reaper Clears and Liners, formulated to do different things. If every single paint line did exactly the same thing, heck, the Chimera paints, if and when those ever get here, those do slightly different things. Everything is a little bit different. Otherwise, there's no reason to have a bazillion brands of paint. Al says the Hover 8. Yeah, it's literally IPVEO is the name of the company, and then you can sort of look under those. But I know I got mine on eBay. There's probably the Hover 9 by now. Adepticon was using those at in the classes. I know my classes, and time's coming pretty fast to register for those classes that I'm doing at Adepticon in March. I think it's December 8th, maybe. I thought it was December 6th, but I think the web cart goes live on December 8th. And I've got at least 3 classes. I might have 4, but I know there's one basing, one oil, and I think there's one fooling around with the Vallejo metal medium. Speaking of things that some companies do, that's probably the only Vallejo product that I use as far as paint is their metal medium. I don't use basically any other Vallejo paints. I used to, but now all I use is the metal medium of all things to do TMM, like stuff like this. I also use the Green Stuff World metallic paints on this. So that was a recent army painting series. The Solo 8 Plus document can't. It sort of does. Now that the key thing about the Hover 8 is that it has its own little screen. So you don't need a computer to be able to make all your modifications to it and see what's going on. And I can turn it black and white. So okay, see we got this right here. I am gonna go zoink, make this black and white. I can do that with the Hover 8 just with its own controls. I don't need the computer to do that. So here, let's try something here. Let's do. Here's another. This is part of a recent army painting series, my Cipher Lords here. So you got all these wild, intense colors, right? What happens when we go like that? Well, you can see all the values are still there. Plenty of shading, but now you don't have you don't have the color contrast. You just have value contrast. There's a great, well, pun intended, value in doing something like, well, I'm just waiting for that other thing to dry a little bit here. So this is another recent video, one of our murder chickens. We're going to go like so. Can still see the fact that it kind of looks like snow now. But the values are still there. You can still see plenty of shape. The color is gone. But when we bring the color back, look at all the nifty intensity that we have. So contrast, and some people have heard me talk about this ad nauseum. There's sort of 4 layers of, it's like an onion. Contrast is like an onion. It has layers. And there are many layers to it. So let's see. Oh, hey, Bethany, how's it going? Runs with Caesars, uses GW Vallejo Reaper. Oh, yeah, the MSPs, and yeah, you gotta try every line. Oh, let's see, Gary never tried oils. I would say you'd probably want to just play with them first, Gary. TMM Starks for well, the Song of Ice and Fire stuff. Well, there just was some issues there. So if you're wondering why you haven't seen it, there's kind of a reason for that, and that's something I can go into in private messages. But there's other. I've got some, well, Warcry stuff, some Sigmar stuff that I'll be doing with the TMM. But yeah, unfortunately, I may eventually sneak in a few of those as far as, say, Patreon videos go. But as far as kind of publicly painting that stuff, I have to sort of take a step back from it, unfortunately. Now, if you're wondering why you just haven't seen it, okay. Lamian medium, we're thinning down. Was that Screaming Skull? We're going to mix that with a touch of the Fenrisian Gray here so it's not too bright and intense. And let's start to do some stuff here. Now, if I have time, I'll try and do some blood effects on this like we did on the other one, because that was really cool. I only mention that because, well, if we're going to do all kinds of blood effects on this, I am not going to be investing a whole lot of extra time. I'll try and get as many different little colors and flavors in this and shading as I can, but all the while thinking, well, if it's going to be covered up by those blood effects, the more complex I make this basically underlayment here, the more the blood effects will be, they're not going to show up as much because you're distracting the person's eye. You're giving them too much and too small of an area to look at. So let's continue here. Oh yeah, Al says that yeah, contrast and light and dark, saturation, color, temperatures, it's all huge. What I want to do is do some more sky earth non-metallic metal. I've kind of sold off most of the ones that I had as examples, so I've got to do some more examples of those. And I love doing that as a little sample. When I kill the saturation like that, when you see stuff like non-metallic metal, oh my gosh. Now, there's still a lot of those episodes. There, you can go see them. Oh, what's that? The crossbows that I did with the contrast paints, those are still around. I could still check those out. Now, the Mountains Men, that was a Patreon series. And the Lannister Halberds, that was another Patreon series. And that is probably just that. That just flashed across the bottom of the screen there. So yeah, you do the Army Painter pledge level. Well, you got a lot to watch because I'm going to be sending you somewhere in the neighborhoods of now 240 hours of content because I think I've added about 9 hours worth of videos since the last time I did one of these, maybe more. Yeah, there's basing. Oh, I just did a big new basing episode. Now let me grab one of these guys. Here it is. So I did 2 of these. Look how huge this thing is. So for scale, there you go. These are actually for Lord of the Rings eagles. It's a flying base. The eagle is actually attached to the tree. But yeah, that was a really fun episode. I'm going to do part 2 where we paint up that base, put some foliage on there. We'll actually be trying some of the foliage that I'm using on here. Now the reason I'm doing this, now look, I just grabbed some of this ochre color here. What the heck is it called? Oh, I put the jar away. Oh, it's probably like Zendri dust or something like that, maybe. And guess what? We're going to mix that into here too. So we have a bunch of different colors in this bone right here. A whole bunch of different colors. Let me check the chat real quick. Super handy to have. Yep. Okay, first lat. Yeah, that's just it kind of well, was it September? September and then October? No, it was September where things kind of went astray there. But it's kind of, well, it's sort of for the best because I didn't realize I hadn't painted anything GW, like anything GW, no matter what it was, 40K, Sigmar, heck, even ninth age fantasy or whatever, in years. I still have not painted a Space Marine probably since 2015, which is why I've been trying to get some Space Marines. I got Custodes now. I've got Sisters of Silence, and oh, Sisters of Battle are on the way. Yeah, that's why I got the Ossiarchs. Actually, they were kind enough. They donated some. What were those? The Aeronautica planes. Those are all assembled, ready to go. So now we're just kind of making our own little skin tone here. Now I'm not gonna forget this. Gotta get a little touch green in here. I don't want to lose this darker skin tone here. I kind of like that. What I'm going to emphasize is over here. And yes, I'm still using that craft brush. Still using that. It's not like I'll do absolutely everything with it, but you can see it keeps me moving fast here. That's important on many levels. I'm going to grab a little bit that's got some of the Vulpus pink in there. Because, yeah, to get whole war bands done in your natural lifetime and armies and such, speed is good. But moving across the miniature fast, you don't get bogged down in one spot. Because I have seen, I mean, just today, and it's not like they weren't beautifully painted. Fantastic, you know, face on a space marine, and it was beautiful. It had all the grays and the blues and the pinks and everything, and it was all painted surrounded by black primer. Well, once you start painting the other colors around that, the colors in your face, they're going to change. They won't physically change, but the appearance, guess what? Going to change. Because your eye is going to see these other colors around them, just like when we killed the saturation and stuff on this, made you see these things in a really different light, so to speak. Well, that's what happens when you, well, if it's white primer or black primer or whatever. That's why I use a very neutral color, just kind of sandy primer. It's the Badger Stynylrez, nothing fancy. You can brush it on. This actually here, I forgot to put the hand on this guy, so I just had to brush on the primer. I'm not even sure anybody noticed that the hand and the base were primed differently, because it's pretty much just the same. One was airbrushed on, the other one was just brushed on, quite literally. Now here, what's nifty is that I can use the Lamian medium here to, let's create sort of a semi-glaze with this. Semi-glaze here. What are we doing? Yeah, let's get that right in here. See what? Now we got a little bit of a pink going there. Look at that. What makes that seem more intense? What makes it seem more intense is the fact that around it are effectively more grayed down, dull colors. And this is when you look at it next to other stuff that's, let's say you put some kind of scorpion green or warp lightning green next to it, you'd say, wow, this is really not a very bright color at all or very intense color. But everything around it is so neutral, and that's what we wanted to do. Okay, so this is just Lamian medium here, mixed with I think it's Bugman's flesh, right? Bugman's glow. Oh, well, maybe that's why it's got a little red to it. Okay, yeah, we're having some fun here. I'll try. Actually, I think when I want to do a little bit of sort of greenish glazing down in the crevices there, I'll probably maybe try the Lamian medium, mix with some green and do that. That could certainly be fun. So, um, let's try that. Yeah, okay, so see how transparent that is? We're kind of alternating back and forth between glazing and more opaque type stuff. So see what we just did there, and oh, sorry, it's blocked by the weapon there. What I might do, let's see if the camera's gonna let me zoom in a little closer. Let me make sure we got focus for you. I think it's at focus. We'll continue. The green around that sort of reddish tone we just added makes that reddish tone look even more intense. Again, by virtue of what's around it. And you'll hear me over and over again mention that. Oh, I'm taking some of that, little bit of that skin glaze, putting it into this weapon right here because, hey, what does the first book of Wapple say? It says if a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. It's a little bit of color unity. That's all. And I will just, yeah, now you notice this could have been, I've seen so many times people just grab, okay, Screaming Skull, some kind of bone color, and then throw whatever, maybe snakebite leather, something like that, over the top of it, which, nothing wrong with that. That's completely fine. But if you're, I'll have people say, uh, even Mariah there, she's asking, well, can I? Is there something a little bit more that I can do Those are the kind of things. Like here, we're taking Leviathan Blue and we mix it with that Fenrisian Gray. We got a helmet we got to do here. We're just going to throw down some different color there, but we're also going to carry that color out here. We have a bunch of different colors on essentially a cape that's going to register as gray. People look at it and say, yeah, okay, that's a gray cape. Well, it's actually got purples in it. It's got reds, browns, tans, blue. It's got a bunch of different colors in there, which people will sort of see upon closer inspection. Speaking of which, we got to get some lighter colors in this helmet here. Let's do that. Let's get some. Oh, let's get some of this. Remember we talked about having some blue-gray down in our skeletons here. Oh, Gary noticed it was, yeah, the thumb palette for the win. Wow, I'm practically, and some folks will know I'm practically making faded ultramarine right here. And some people know that that is a color that has great power in the universe. So powerful it must be used wisely. And you know who you are, and you will be laughing at your mobile device or wherever you're watching this. Now let's get the inside of this cape here. We're going to take the Rhinox hide. We are going to mix it with some of that Screaming Skull, and let's see what happens. You know, I said I didn't even mix the paint together. We just call that marbleizing right there. We're going to go right into our cape here and took most of the paint out. Now I'm just going to press it around. So there was a little bit of the Lamian medium in there. Gives it a little bit of, see how that's transparent? It's not quite covering over that. This is sort of an oil painting thing. Here, a little wet in the wet. So we took some Rhinox hide. Look at this. We are going to take that. We're going to mix those two together. And we're going to get some real quick shading. Oh, let's take some of this too and go over here with it. So again, bigger brush, working wet into wet. Now I have all these different colors here, different shadings in a matter of seconds, as opposed to quite laboriously just layer after layer after layer. And even if you don't have a time deadline, it's just the interest factor or getting to see things just happen more rapidly. And just doing it with a bigger brush. I will eventually go to smaller brushes when it's the right time. So you can see I've pretty much gone into every single color here. Oh, Al asks, says colors are judged by what they are adjacent to. Something I had to learn was chasing brighter highlights isn't the only way. Oh yeah, well, there's this age-old story that I tell from one of the very first Adepticon classes that I ever taught. Oh, God, like year 2 or 3. So we're talking 2008, something like that, 2009. Yeah, that was a little while ago. And we were doing a non-metallic class, and it was really featuring swords, right? Because those have clearly defined edges and stuff. And I saw a look on a person's face, and I knew they were not having a good time with it. And I walked over and I saw their sword blade, and it pretty much just looked white. And they had this quizzical look on their face, and they said, "Man, I'm adding white to this, and I know you said never add white, but I'm adding white, and I have no contrast whatsoever." And I just kind of said, "Well, do you mind if I play with this for a second?" And I grabbed the miniature, grabbed the brush, grabbed a little bit of sort of brownish gray, put it on one side of the sword blade, and all of a sudden there was a massive amount of contrast. It took like 2 brush strokes, and he went, "Ah, okay, message received." And now that just probably stuck with him forever because it was a very dramatic thing. I mean, it just poof, couple of brush strokes made that much of a difference, and it was simple. There was nothing, well, you need to glaze this a few times and do that. It's like, nope, take the brush, boom, boom, done, end of story. And he said, that I can do. That I can do, and that I can remember for a long time. Which I suppose that's kind of why I do these things. It's just to sort of, I don't know, save people from having to learn the hard lessons that I did. So this is, what is it, Leviathan Blue. This is the Lauren Forest, and I'm using Lamian Medium to thin it down to turn it into a glaze, which I'm going to put here and then take some of it away. I can just use my finger here. Hey, finger painting, that's part of some of the classes. In fact, there's very few classes I do where you don't do finger painting. So be ready for it. Be ready for it. Now, those rumors about tasers and others kind of stuff, I cannot confirm nor deny that those happen either, but hey, what happens at Adepticon stays at Adepticon. Now, let's get some of this. Check this out, the marbling there. It's unfortunately the shininess of the liquid doesn't let you see, but look at this. So I got a blob of Leviathan Blue here, but over there it's kind of green. But yet when I put this on the base and it starts to kind of self-mix, it's registering as kind of a greenish gray. Once again, not going to invest a whole bunch of time painting all these rocks because I'm going to be putting flock and foliage there. My only concern is to set up that eventual flock and foliage. Look at this. Big old blob of Leviathan Blue there. Gonna mix that together. That's going to make me kind of a brownish, tannish gray. I'm going to slip that into these areas too, like so. Not even going to wash the brush. I'm going to go into some of this Vulpes pink here. Look at this. Some of the, okay, we're going to grab a little bit of that Fenrisian gray. Nice and translucent. So here we use the Vulpes pink as if it was a Lamian medium. Oh, what the heck? What is this pink horror? You only live once. Well, usually. Unless you're like the star of a TV show and then you just never quite go away. Or you just keep coming back. But here, we're the stars of our own TV shows. Yeah, I'm going to grab some of that Screaming Skull here. So you can see I'm just kind of taking the original sort of wash color that was there and, well, we're lightening that up a little bit. Because why not? Now, I could paint sort of like a Raptorix or something, or who are those winged guys? I forget what the winged guys are called. I got a bunch of those prepped. I thought of doing those in oils, though, actually. Or at least a couple of them. What I wanted to do was basically try some of the same color schemes. That fire and ice like I did on the, well, murder chickens, the Raptorix guys. Just to show people how, okay, same kind of basing, same theme, totally different miniature. Make those completely different miniatures look like they both belong on the table together. Let's see what this looks like as an additional skin tone, because purples and skin is fun. Oh, are every classes ever in Florida? For now, actually, well, the reason I do these live sessions and the recorded tutorials is that it gives me more reach, because taking this stuff on the road, it's not fun at all. Even just getting the stuff to Adepticon, there is so much stuff that I have to bring as far as video equipment and tools and everything. It is really hard to make that go on the road. So I kind of use, that's why I use YouTube and the well, the Patreon page and that sort of thing is kind of a force multiplier for these lessons here, so that folks don't have to be in this area to be able to see them. And that's why I try to do these live sessions, because, well, it's a little more interactive, like a class would be. Whereas the recorded videos, they're neat that this information's the same, but it's a little difficult to ask questions like this, like you just asked one now, and I'm sure people have questions all the time as I'm doing these. You can sort of throw those my way. Oh, I'll catch you later there, Al. Well, happy Thanksgiving, and well, as you know, you can always watch these in their entirety whenever you want, because, well, at least until someone takes them down and sends me to jail or something like that, they're all up there for you guys to watch. So here, let's get a little bit of this purple on the helmet, because why not? Let's get a little bit of this purple onto these, and I'm gonna assume those are not talons but actual teeth here somehow. Let's even see if we can use smaller brushes. Let's go to a different flesh tone. Again, using the Lamian medium, I'm going to use a little bit of this screaming skull to lighten that up. So we see we got all kinds of nifty little greens, purples, some brighter reds in our skin tones here. And we're just going to start to bring up some of these. And I can always knock them down if things get too light. Well, hey, you know what? I got my other colors sitting here already. And that Lamian medium that's in there, that definitely, I don't want to say it makes him act like the Reaper clears, but a little bit closer to that, I can say. Now we'll just continue. I want to make sure, yeah, palettes there. Let's see. Oh, and oh, see you later, Gary. Yeah, have a nice weekend there. I will. What the heck is today? It's, well, technically it's Friday. Sunday. Well, late Sunday night. I'll give another one of these a try. And the other little bit of news is that I'm gonna. I'm not sure when I'll get a chance to do this. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, I want to try and do my first Twitch broadcast. I haven't ever done one of those, and I just want to do one in case something really crazy happens and I've got to just have everything unlisted, or something like that. If I can't have, I don't know, general public things or whatever just because of YouTube craziness. So that's something I might play around with. Speaking of playing around with stuff here, we've got that Vulpus pink and some of the pink horror, which I'm going to go right over here. So, the Lamian medium, it's kind of fun stuff. But I literally forgot that I had, I think I have a couple of jars of this stuff. I'm sort of glad that I don't even, oh, well, yeah, see, here again. It was a question. Otherwise, I would have completely forgotten about it. Here, I remembered it, gave it a shot, and had some fun. Now, I would like to, I think most people, when they see me doing the flesh tone, they know I like to actually get some more pinkish colors in certain places. For some reason, it's always kind of neat to have that down by, say, the knees and wherever there might be, blood vessels near the surface. That's not usually a bad thing. Okay, I'm going to remember that Lamian medium there. Because what that does, yeah, see, it's making the paint transparent enough, but it's not running all over the place. Now, I'm not using a whole bunch of it, I'll tell you that. But what it's also not doing is making the paint chalky. That was something I wasn't sure would that happen or not. Especially some of these lighter colors that clearly have, well, they got some white in them. There's just no doubt about it. That's why I like the Reaper Clears, because A, they're not clear paints, and B, they don't have white in them at all. They are just pure pigment, essentially. Along the lines of the Chimera colors. But so I think you can see what's happening here. We're trying to build like a focus of light here. We're trying to really get, there we got some teeth there. I've got these crazy tusk things or spikes or whatever in my way. So I've got to sort of fight around those. But remember, this has Lamian medium in it, so it is somewhat transparent. Yeah, it's a little bit like, wow. It's almost like I'm working with, say, Maiden Flash, clear red, clear yellow. That's kind of, well, we just found something new. How's that? It, I always try and do at least one new thing in every episode. That was not the new thing that was supposed to happen in this episode, but hey, I think that's pretty cool, and I really do appreciate it when people join in on the chat. I know Kathy appreciate, well, even more so for Kathy, because she really, well, we had that discussion earlier about the social painter or people wanting to paint in groups and stuff. Ever since the bunker closed here in the Chicago area, there is no place. Well, you can go to Grognard's. That's actually not a bad place. Uh, and Games Plus is actually, wow, it's a really nice place. But those places are too far away from our place to just be viable on a regular basis. Think of it this way: if we go to Grognard a couple times a week, it would basically replace the time that I do this, and that doesn't really help anybody too much. So Sam, look at this. We're gonna take the, again, Lamium medium, some of that green here. And I think it's showing up on screen. Look at this. Look at what that does in those crevices there. But yet, see, we got some of that Vulpus pink that's toned down. Look, now we're going back into green here. We're not trying to make anything nurgly. Although, I mean, these guys are sort of chaos. Well, not sort of. They kind of are. So maybe that's not a bad thing to have. So the Lamian medium, that's a fun little thing right there. I am really glad we messed with that. So that means I'll try and do more lessons with the Lamian medium, not just with the GW paints either. Let's see how they react to the Creature Caster paints. Let's see how that reacts to, well, Reaper paints. So I will try to do those. I'll just try and remember because there's so many different things that I've got planned for you guys. Okay, speaking of plans, I got plans to do this. So this right here would be normally, say, a Maiden Flesh and Clear Red if we're speaking in Reaper terms, but we are speaking in GW terms, so that's Screaming Skull, Pink Horror, and Lamian Medium. So what we're kind of doing is helping to emphasize the, oops, sorry, had it turned around. Well, it would be a little tougher for me to see this way. So we're not just trying to get things lighter, we are also trying to have a little different color action going on. Now we've spent a fair amount of time on that skin tone. Let's play elsewhere before we get too bogged down. And by playing elsewhere, I mean the few metals that we've got. So there's your Fenrisian Gray. And yeah, Fenrisian Gray Screaming Skull. And we shall start to bring out some lights here on our metals. I don't want this to be really, really shiny chromy steel because, well, I think there's some chips and dents and what other kind of things going on with this. So let's do that back here. What do you notice is not on the palette here whatsoever? There is no white. If there is a white, it'll be really late in the process. And I mean a while from now, because we're not even to ivory yet. And ivory is not as light as white. This may look like white here, but believe me, this is, if you're talking about a value scale at 1 to 10, oh, this is, I'm looking at it here, it's at 3. It's between a 3 and a 2. But if white is 1, we ain't there yet. We are not there. And I'm not going to do too much with this lighter color here because we also don't want to miss out on our helmet here and get too much of our helmet color onto the fur. So now we're going a little more into the ivory here. Where are we at? Oh, let's see. Gary asks, is there a place you would focus green blue on skin tone? Well, the obvious place, your 5 o'clock shadow under the chin. Usually under here too. Anything on the hands, the palms, that I try and save that more for your reds. Any sort of the chest areas here and what are some of your muscle groups there? The pectorals and your abdomen muscles here. Those I try and save some of that for those nifty little greens. So I almost forgot there was a little bit of chainmail in there. Now, here we go. So we're going to use some of this Achillean green here. Oh, Anabolic, how's it going? I don't see any other minute painters who get a nice result at this fast pace. Wish I could be able to paint like this. Well, hopefully, here's my little container for that. If you check these out, at least, even if there's 1 or 2 little things that you could say, you know what, I can absorb that and make that part of my painting regimen. Hey, it could speed things up. And even if it's just one little thing like this, okay, mixing, we got Achillean green and we're mixing it with that ivory over there. And say, okay, what's that for? Well, this is more of a sky blue color here. I'm going to use it on this side because you can see this and it's not blocked by a weapon. So let's get, now we got Lamian medium in there too, so that it's not too, here, look at what I just did there. See that? And it's not everywhere, it's just right there. Over here, we are going to go over like this. Yep. Why are we doing that? Well, to get separation from the cloak, but also we need a sky color there. We need something that's akin to a sky color. Now, this is cool because the Achillean green is acting like our basically Lamian medium that has a color to it. It's just, I was thinking I was working with Reaper Clears there and said, but I'm not. Look at this. We're gonna go nuts and we're gonna actually put some of that in our so-called bone color. We are gonna put that over here. No one's gonna really know it when they see this thing from a distance. They will not see that I just put those dots of sky color there on what's supposed to be bone. Oh, what the heck? I'm gonna go crazier. We're out of control. We're putting it on our ground over here. We're gonna put it on this thing. Because no one's going to really say, you know what, he took that Achillean green and Screaming Skull mixed and put that over there. Clearly he did. Well, probably not. Let's make it a touch lighter here. I'm going to use, here. I'm going to just take the water away. And we'll just use the Lamian medium. See where it goes. See what it lets us do. I've heard people talking about the Lamian medium before. I just didn't, maybe I didn't think I even had some. I don't know. But it just kept kind of slipping my mind, and well, now we know that it can do some nifty things. So here we're trying to find a few reflections of things. I'm also trying to create the impression of, say, a tree line around him. How do we do that? We grab some of our Wildwood, or either maybe Rhinox hide or something like that. And we're going to drop in some right here, like this. A little bit of dark there. Same here. So we're just kind of, now we start to, because we did all of that structure at the beginning, right? We did all those quick glazes and everything so that we could sort of have fun later on. I just cleared out some space on the palette. Here's something we haven't really done before. We're taking the Fenrisian gray, we're mixing it with the green. Another potential metal color because, hey, I love having purples and greens in my metals. And we just drop that right there. That's only gonna, people look at that and just say, oh yeah, that's another form of gray. Now remember, I have no white in there at all. Once we do use something like white, well, that's going to have quite the impact. But that's something we need to wait on. I'm going to take some of this. We will mix that with our sort of mix we used on our cloak here. And we're not trying to give him a pink cloak. That's not the purpose here. So I could do mud spatters on this. I guess it could work. I mean, it's a jungle theme, right? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much time we got left. Oh, good. It's only 3 o'clock in the morning. I was hoping to get an even earlier start than this, but I just, well, it was as soon as we got home from Thanksgiving, I immediately tried to start setting this stuff up. So I try and set up, say, the reference pictures that are there of the other ones so that you could see those. I try and set up things like this. So let's go to some other scenes. Speaking of other things, let's look at, so here he is. This is the previous one that we did. You can see the blood effects on the weapon there. You can see that's the dry foliage, or the vellum foliage. Now you can't see my cursor and what it's pointing to, but there's from Wicked Elf Studios, there's some of our blood effects there. And now here's your Cipher Lords. These are from Army Painting Series 14, I believe. Yeah, see the gold M there, all of the reflecting things, see all the purples and greens and the metals. Yeah, had a lot of fun with that. So I put the Lamian medium over there because that's typically where my water is. So there's a container there. I'm basically just going to instinctively put the brush in that container. So pink and greens together. Look at this. We added a sky blue color there. We've just now added a bit of pink over there. We're just having all kinds of fun with this. I can do some gentle glazes over the top if I maybe want to even things out, but we have not gone anywhere near the lightest flesh tone color that we could possibly do. I mean, even this is not the lightest one. We still have a whole lot of range left that we can play with. But again, we don't necessarily want to, have to, because you can go lighter doesn't mean you should go lighter. ICD beer, IC beer. Thanks a lot, much appreciated. Sorry, I had to get caught up with the chat again here. Now, and Anabolic asks, what do you think of those Chimera colors? I only got to try them for a few hours at Gen Con earlier this year. They were actually sent to me after Gen Con, but we were away at ReaperCon, and even though we had a hold mail, they tried to deliver them, and all we can assume is that they tried sending them back to Spain. Very sad. I believe Chimera is sending them again. They were also sending some of the miniatures too. It was an extra bummer because they were sending some of the new releases so that I could do some tutorials on those. And hopefully those are also in this second box that I hope they are sending. The colors were almost like a combination of Reaper Clears and the Chimera, the Pro Acryls, because I could see them being really good for actual regular 2D painting besides just miniature painting. They have, obviously, I think everybody knows they have lots and lots of pigmentation to them, which means you can do lots of glazing with them, but you can also do some really nice opaque things too. Just so many different fun things that you can try with those, and I'm looking forward to them whenever they do get here. And you'll certainly see me using them, no doubt about that. What is there, 15 to 17 colors in the set? Something like that. All right, I'm just taking a little bit of green in here, changing things up. All right, I'm going to maybe scroll up real quick here to see if I missed any other questions in the chat here. Now, let's not skip out on some of our other areas that need not just some lights, but also some different colors. That's why we're emphasizing this green over here. Let's put that, see, if I make each one of these little sort of bony type things a different color. Yeah, very fun. Now, speaking of skeletons and skulls and bones and all that, the Ossiarchs, I basically got all of it. Well, there's maybe one or two small character miniatures or something that I don't have, but the idea is I want to do mass amounts of object source lighting on those, all kinds of TMM, non-metallic, and just like here, see how the bones here, look, there's some bluish gray, there's some green, and only a few tiny places is it actually, as I make the air quotes with my mind, bone colors. For the most part, there's no bone color anywhere. And I know that can really mess with people's minds, that thought process. But when you want to have things look a little more interesting or be a little more interesting, right? Because it could get really boring painting endless skeletons, the exact same, what is that, bleach bone and Devlin mud washes. You will not be entertained by that. I can tell you right now, it'll get the stuff done, get on the table, but probably it couldn't get on the table for you fast enough because you'll just get so insanely bored with it. You say, no, that was no fun. There's a few weeks of my life I ain't never getting back. So that's that same greenish color. We're putting it on the Green Stuff World skulls there. I'm going to just make sure I didn't miss anything here. I think we're pretty well caught up. But thanks, Anabolic. Yeah, I think I really needed, what would you say, 7 to 8 millimeter figures, because I've got some Nocturna figures. Actually, there's some good friends of mine, and wait till you see these. There are a bunch of 78 millimeter or 72 millimeter figures headed this way. Some for oils, some for, you think this is kind of wild here doing all the little flesh tones on this small figure, but yeah, wait till you see it on some of these bigger ones. You'll really be able to see the greens, the purples, all that stuff have such a fun impact. So now let's start to find some lights in other places. We've kind of been focusing in the certain areas there, the skin tones and such, but let's find some other spots too. Might even do some more glazes with this. We're going to take the Rhinox hide. We're going to take some of the Wildwood here. We are going to go into our shit. I'm going to go with more. So this basically, I just took the color I had in there, threw in some Lamian medium just to turn it into a quick glaze. Just out of nowhere. Just did it. I'm going to take some of this yellow ochre style color, and I'm pretty sure it's Xandri dust. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. So once again, just changing around some of these colors here and there. So one thing I found, we were talking about the Green Stuff World paints and how they don't necessarily like the wet palette. It's not any kind of big strike against anything because, well, the creature caster paints, they're really not meant for a wet palette. Specifically, I was told by the folks, Slow Fuse and stuff, they said, well, it's not really intended for wet palettes. It's really more intended for dry palettes. No problem, because for many, many years, that's all I ever used was just a straight up dry palette. Never used a wet palette. There were certain weather conditions and other weird things here that was drying the paint so insanely fast, I just had to start using a wet palette. So I think we're starting to build this up now. Let's work on a few other areas here. Oh, let's lighten this up where we can. But we don't want to lose all that nifty shape that we've got here by virtue of those. Some of those are those initial glazes that we did. Here, let's get some. Look, we hit again. Why do I have to go to white when I haven't even gotten ivory? This is pretty much the first time I've used straight up ivory on this. Yeah, we have plenty of space to work with. Not gonna rush into those extreme highlights. Let me check for any chat questions here real quick. Oh, Fruity Toots. Well, this is probably, yeah, what is it? 3:10 a.m. I started this probably 35 to 40 minutes sooner than normal. Part of it is I don't think I could really survive working until 5:30 in the morning here because I'm already on, I think, hour number 20 of today. And if I went to the usual sort of 5:30 time, that would basically be up for 24 hours. And that's not an area that I want to play with. Here, oh, look at this. Look at what do we get here when we mix some of that skin color with that Achillean green. I'm gonna pop that right in there. Oh, I get a nifty little gray. Yeah, we're using that. Going to use that here too. This is why I like to have all these colors out on the palette because they're right there for me to try. I don't have to think about it. And I know I always use sports analogies all the time. Well, what's the most successful athletes, especially in games or hockey, football, anything that involves speed? When you have to be thinking about stuff, it just think long, think wrong. The more you have to think, the more potential bad things are going to happen because it's just slowing you down. You're just mentally slowing yourself down, getting in your own way. And this is me trying not to get in my own way. Just saying, oh, look at this color. Oh, look what I just mixed together. You know what? That might be really cool over here. That might actually be a nifty contrast for this or that or whatever. Out of sight, out of mind is another thing, I suppose. And if you just have the colors out there on the palette, if you're painting out of pots or something like that, well, you don't get to do this. That's how can you? Because the colors just aren't there for you to mix, to play with. I know people can get a little worried and stuff about mixing colors when they haven't really done that much. And I know they'll say, well, I don't know color theory. And they say, well, I don't know the color wheel. And I said, well, neither do I. And I don't really care because that stupid color wheel just confuses the heck out of people so much. It just really does more harm than good. When you just think of reds and yellows as warm colors and stuff like blues as a cooler color, say, okay, I've got this green. And there, if it looks like there's a little more yellow in it, that's a warmer green. If it looks more like a teal color or something like that, well, it must have some blue in it. That's a cooler green. Instead of just agonizing over, well, this, where does it fit on the wheel? Is it the opposite of this purple or something like that? Once you kind of get that warm versus cool stuff kind of in your mind, that whole color wheel thing just sort of flows naturally. You don't have to worry about it so much and think about it. You're just reacting. You're reacting to what you see on your palette. You see something and you go, ooh, that might be neat over here. Well, that could be neat over here. And well, so on and so on and so on. I'm gonna grab some of this over here. Let's start to put some slightly lighter areas on the helmet here. And like I said, we haven't even messed around with white yet. There's some of our lighter sky color that's just going to go right in there. Some of it over here. Another shot of that right there. Now let's say, okay, let's find, I think I've got a GW white. Now this, it's white scar. Is it actually still a viable, well, it's somewhat viable here. I'm just going to plop it over there. We'll just get some of the Leviathan, some of the Lamian medium in there. And we're going to mix that with some of our Achillean green. And now we've got a little slightly different light color here. Put in a few lighter points here on the helmet there. I don't want to have a ring here, but I'm just trying to do some indications of, here, let's get some of our, it's almost like faded ultramarine. There, some of that here. Gonna go into the cape here, bring out a few of these, like so. Yeah, that's fun. Going into these again, whatever these claws, teeth are. I'm gonna take this and we'll mix it with some of that, the Leviathan Blue mix here, and go back into some grays. I'll take some of this and we'll make ourselves a lighter, kind of a yellow ochre color over here. Just something we can play around with here with these horns here to give those a little more emphasis, because we pretty much haven't done anything with those since our original glazes. I know that, you know, glaze, wash, whatever, it kind of gets bandied about there pretty casually. To me, a glaze is just a controlled wash, a very tightly controlled wash. We can emphasize a little bit more of our highlights there. We're starting to build up a little bit of, what would you say, a little bit of interest on the face there, because that's kind of where you would like to focus your center of interest on, but we don't have a whole lot of the face showing, so we have to kind of do what we can to generate a little extra interest in that zone. Now let me do another check again of the chat here real quick. Oh, we're gonna make tea and then come back and watch and work on the Sisters of Battle. Now, if those are the brand new ones, I am super envious. Because, well, let's see, was it 29th or something? That they start to arrive where you can pick those up, I think. Wait a minute, that's today. Holy smokes. Ah, well, okay. Yeah, I'm thinking it's like the 24th or 25th or something like that, and I'm looking down in the corner of my screen and I go, oh, yeah, that would be today. Well, how cool is that? Maybe, geez, maybe they'll be here for prepping pretty soon. I'm just now starting, you can see, we're starting to find a few areas here to put some lighter things. We don't want to go too nuts with this because remember we got those blood effects to go over this. Want to keep that. What shouldn't be as brightly highlighted as say something on the face or something on the metals here. I mean, why the heck would the bone color be more reflective or whatever, or more brightly highlighted than something that's metal, which is kind of designed it's shiny? I'm going to take that same color here. This is now a really, really, really light flesh tone. You can see we've kind of painted our leather by, it's a little process called negative painting. We're essentially painting what's not there. So the thing that is there ends up all of a sudden look like it's been shaded. And it really hasn't, because we've only just painted the stuff around it. Oh, Anabolics is a wall of slightly different color variations of paints. Yeah, well, now again, there's kind of an advantage in that I did the 2D art thing for so long, and let's take watercolors. It was a medium that I used forever and ever. Well, I only ever used 8 or 9 colors tops. Period. That's it. They were always they were mixed together. So I guess it was a natural kind of a progression to this. But then it was a practical thing too, because I had to match, and now sometimes I have to match color schemes that I painted 14 years ago. Those paints don't exist right here. This jar, that is what Reaper paints came in. And we have between the two of us, we have about 30 or 35 of those. It was every Reaper paint we ever had, which are now they are either dead paint jars with coagulated paint in them or completely empty. So, and well, Games Workshop has changed their paint line more than once, and the contrast thing, well, that affected their paint line too. So that was another thing too, was just being a little bit more invulnerable to sudden changes in paint lines, or again having to match stuff. None of those things, which is very fun. Okay, let's make something like an orange here. So that's that, not Vulpes paint, pink horror with that Xandri dust. Now I have some bright yellows that I could throw on the palette, but those weren't out there from the get-go. I won't go on to introduce those now. We'll go with what we got. We got another little sort of a skull here. Oh, we need to do something with that cloth there. So I'm going to take my green here. We are going to mix it with the Wildwood / Rhinox hide. And that's going to go here. So it's somewhat darker, but it's really more of a It's a green against a flesh tone basically. Now let's go Wildwood. Little Leviathan Blue here. Now we've got something that's much darker. It's darn near a black. And I can do some glazes on things. Here, we can strengthen up a few edges, or like I said, we'll just use it as a glaze. So throwing some of the Lamian medium in there. You can see we're getting some nice darks over there. And here I feel like I needed some darks too. There was a lot of, we kept getting lighter and lighter, more mid-tones and such. But we need a few more darks in here. And I'm just going to take literally straight up Lamian medium, and with whatever's in the brush, we'll just let that flow down into that area where I just needed, again, some more darks in there. We will use this on his furs, because again we got plenty of mid-tones, we got plenty of, well, lighter colors. We don't have all of our lights in place yet, but we could use some really nice rich darks. And there's a reason why I'm using Wildwood and Leviathan Blue to make that darker. You don't need black. You got blue, you got brown, you got black. Hopefully this means you'll never have to fight over jars of Nuln Oil again at the GW store. Because, well, that used to happen all the time. And then, well, we ran out of Nuln Oil. So then we would use the Devlin Mud and what was the blue? Darn, can't remember what the blue wash was called. But anyways, we would use that. Mix them together, we get a nice gray. Well, until those were used up, and then I started to actually mix the Dorici Violet and maybe it was the Dark Angels Green wash. I think that's what it was. I just kept finding different ways to make gray. Kept finding different ways to get what I needed. And that's that. I just try and hopefully present you guys with those same type of solutions. So this is actually the cape color. I'm just throwing it real quick here on his boots just to get a little different color. Now we'll use this tan here. Mix that in there. Just going wet into wet, because I didn't want to have to take a whole bunch of time layering stuff on these boots when they might just be covered with flock or mud or something else. Why kill myself on something that just nobody's really going to be able to see anyways? So the white mixing with the screaming skull there. We'll find ourselves a few highlight areas on this. Again, I hope everybody can see this. I hope it's been in focus all this time, because I'm looking at a million different things here, so I can't always tell what is in focus or not. Oh, Anabolic says maybe they'll pick up the Chimera color set and only paint with those for a while. I want to say it's maybe 17. Now, not all 17 are colors. There's a medium in there, and then there's sort of like a satin varnish type thing in there too. I want to say there's maybe 13 to 15 actual paint colors. I could be wrong. It's been a while. It's been long enough so that I don't necessarily remember. Now, actually here, I'll show you something in just a second. Now, those Green Stuff World paints that I was telling you about. There, I'm just going to let that sit. Here we go. So this is another current army painting series. So this was done entirely with Green Stuff World paints. It's not what I normally do. I don't normally just paint miniatures with only one paint company. But got these Harad guys here. I wanted to try a different color scheme for them. And oh, and also I did my sand effects here, so I was kicking up the sand like that. That's something I'd never done before. And in doing this, I learned even more what the properties of those Green Stuff World paints were. And that's by, well, taking away all my usual stuff. You know, I was already so many times I've just about reached for this Reaper paint or this Chimera or this oh, what's the other the Monument Slow Fuse Creature Caster paints, because just, well, force of habit, right? We're all creatures of habit. And I had to several times stop myself from reaching for those, because the whole point was just say, all right, look, your usual stuff, you don't get to do that anymore. That's gone. You have got to take this brand new paint that you have never used before, and you got to find all the ins and outs of this paint and see what the heck is going on. And it was a challenge. I mean, it's going to be. It's still going to be a challenge. Heck, that Necron figure that I showed you from that series 13. That was me using. Now I was using all metallics, which I'd never done at all. I'd painted a few isolated figures using, say, the metal medium. But yeah, that Necron there, that was all a bunch of metal paints. That was that was confusing as heck. I was like, what is going on with this stuff? I've never used this before. So now again, going to got some of that white here to try and get a few points of, and I got eyes to do here. Come on. But I don't want to, there's certain things here I don't want to get too much in the way of bright highlights on, because then some stuff like the metal won't necessarily register as metal, because other things are darn near as brightly highlighted. And Acerman Blue, that's it. Yes. It was Acerman Blue, Devlin Mud. We did that for the longest time, and then it was the green and the, I think it was Juichi Violet. That made the really nifty little gray. That's, I still to this day mix purple and green to make a gray or even a black. So here's that Vulpes pink contrast paint. Doing a little bit of that there. Let's see what else we can do here. What are we looking at now? It's a 330. I want to make sure I get to those blood effects there so that we can spend some time on that, because those are pretty nifty. We got to talk a little bit about the non-metallic metal stuff there. We got to play with some skin tones, some bone colors. We did lots of different things. I am going to try and make this even larger so I can see it a little better. Yeah, we'll definitely do some blood effects on this a little bit there. I think that'll be fun. And on the other one we did those blood drips and such. Now here's, okay, this is where we took the green and our Wildwood, mixed it together. Some of that's going to go in here too. Got my little dark mix up here. Strengthen up some darks here. Yeah, we need that. We also need some of this on our helmet here in just a few areas. Now there's very little metal on these guys at all, to say the least. Sometimes I forget to maybe make the furs on these capes just be darker. I just sort of trend towards making it lighter and lighter and lighter. Like everything is some kind of polar bear or white wolf or something like that that everybody's wearing. That's not really the case. is the case though is I'm going to take some green here. That's going to go into some of the crevices there to make that a little more interesting. Oh, what the heck, I'm going to throw some of that on the cape. We are going to take some lighter green. That's going to also go on to the furs. Like there, and I want to get some right here too. Remember, just like what we did on the flesh tone, where we used greens in certain areas just to be able to contrast with the reddish colors in the flesh tone, or to make the reddish colors in the flesh tone just stand out more. There. So now, see, we're getting a little more of a flow to this cape here. Now, this has to be, we got to go lighter with that somehow. But I want that ochre color here in these bands that he's got here that are holding on his, apparently these little tusk things that are attached to his arm, because that's what you do when you got a big old bone weapon, I guess. I will go into that's the some Lamia medium, some of the Fenrisian gray, and the Lorien forest. And there you go. Now I've got some, well, Lorien forest, Lothlorien, Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, SBG. I've been prepping a whole bunch of that stuff. So I've got the eagles that I'll be painting along with those bases that I showed you earlier. But I have some Knights of Dol Amroth, and that is for some really fun sky earth non-metallic metals, which I don't know if I've really been able to feature that on Lord of the Rings figures yet. Because as part of my army painting series for the Patreon page, I did the Easterlings. They got primarily gold, and then I did the Morgul Knights. Those were in oils. That was a blast. I did Rohan, the infantry, and let's see. Then now I'm working on the Harad, but there's not a whole lot of metal on Harad. That's that wicker armor and that sort of thing. So I thought, yeah, we'll eventually I'll get to Gondor, but I always had a soft spot for the Knights of Dol Amroth. Always had a soft spot for those guys. Actually, I think my last of all the Golden Demon pieces that I did, I think there's, well, there's 12 or 13 Golden Demons or something like that. Some of them were units, but all of those were either commission things or I had to sell them off. That's the one Golden Demon figure I still have out of all of those. So it'd be fun to sort of build a Dol Amroth army around Prince Imrahil, my one last remaining Golden Demon thing that's in the house. I guess I'll mention that too because, well, the Golden Demons are back at Adepticon, and I want to try and do some videos that are, for lack of a better term, road to Golden Demons, where I'm just sort of taking some figures and, well, they're potential entries. So you can maybe see more what goes into the process of I always call them contest miniatures. So you'll get to maybe see that process too. That could be fun for some folks because they've never really ever seen me paint things beyond, well, stuff like this where it's, you know, in a video here and I'm spending maybe 2 to 3 hours tops on a figure. Now, it's not like for Golden Demons I'll spend 50 hours on one figure. These techniques here, they help me to spend less time on that Golden Demon figure. It might be 10 hours instead of 20 or 30. I think I'm going to just kind of double down on this lighter color over here. For some reason, something's telling me that it needs a little separation there, and then we're going to put some of that, kind of reverse engineer that back into the helmet a little bit for some shiny. We're going to put that into here for a little separation. Let's put that into here because we've been, yeah, let's go into here and see if we can't do some lighter things on our cloak here in a few spots. And then I want to, like everywhere else, we don't want that to get too boring. So I'm going to take Leviathan Blue here. Leviathan Blue, we're going to, oh, yeah, let's use the Lamian Medium first. Can you see that? I believe so. So we can go in here, we can get some nice dark with that. Again, Lamian Medium to thin it down on the fly. Let's find another color here that could be fun. Oh, no, I'm going to go with this and the Leviathan Blue. We'll mix those together. If there's too much, we can always go back to some more Leviathan Blue. But sometimes in the areas of dark here, yeah, there we go. I want that a little darker, a little more Leviathan Blue there. I'm not even sure if that's showing up at all. But we're basically putting some bluish color into our deep crevices here. That's the thing that gives it interest, not just darker red. You do a darker version of that red, okay, it's going to look like shading. Yeah, it'll look like light and dark. And it's going to be boring. Now, let's say worrying about the gaming table aside. Okay, you're talking more Golden Demons. Well, what are they going to want to see? They're going to see something that's a little more interesting than just, oh, look, lighter red on top of darker red. How visually not stunning that is. This right here, see, we're adding some of our blue into there. Let's get a little bit of that Lamian Medium and push it around. This is, why? Actually, that Lamian Medium, it's kind of in a way, it's letting me do almost some oil paint type things here, which is kind of fun. Yeah, unexpected. Like I said, I haven't played with it at all, and I'm having a lot of fun playing with that now. Just finding out what it can do. Finding out what it can do. And you only do that if you try it. I am glad I have a new camera mount here that I'm trying to get used to. The camera is in a slightly different place. However, as I shake the table there, that used to be like a giant earthquake. What I just did there, that camera would still be shaking now. So that's kind of cool. I'm always trying things like that to incrementally make things a little more helpful for you guys from a visual standpoint watching these things. All right, so we've got some of this pink over here that, let's use a little white. And it was asked earlier, where would you kind of put things like the blues and the greens? Well, this is where I would definitely want to put a lighter pinkish color right there on the hand to indicate those capillaries and stuff, all those little blood vessels and everything that tend to be right around here. And also, see how we've got this, now that yellow color almost becomes a bit greenish because we've got this pink color here on the hands. And we are going to find a way to put some of this down onto the legs too. That's some of the Lamian Medium that's just been mixed in there. Oh, let's get some lighter colors here on the leg. Now in this case, I'm going to go, it's more of the Vulpes pink. Yeah. Needed that to be a little lighter. Gonna try and get some eyes into this guy here. So that's the Leviathan Blue. Normally I'd use something like blue liner here, but we do not have that on the palette. So we gotta make do with something else. Just giving the indications, some eyeballs there. I can go back in and play with that some more if need be. Now let's maybe think about doing the blood effects here so that can have a little chance to dry, and then we can maybe play with some of the foliage too. So what I will do is find myself some other, aha, I'm going to use another extra piece of palette paper here wherever that might be. Yeah, there it is. Just throw this out here so you can kind of see that. Now I've got three different things that I tend to use, and probably most of you will recognize that. So you got your blood for the blood god. Oh, electronic. Oh, thanks. Yes, the re-release War of the Ring. Oh, it's kind of funny because with that talk about redoing Warhammer, as in Warhammer Fantasy, it's that circle gets the square. Wondering if they're gonna kind of do it War of the Ring style. But then we've got this. We got Green Stuff World True Blood, and we've got Ghost Tint. This is from Badger right here. Oh, probably easier to read like that. So we're gonna throw a few of these things out here. Now let me just moisten this up a bit here so it kind of stays in place. There. Now we're going to put these three things out here. This is the blood for the blood god that's going to go here. We don't need quite that much, but I'm putting a nice healthy amount there just to weigh that down. So now we've got, this is the Green Stuff World True Blood Coat, and this is going to be the lightest one of all of them. And I think you can see that right away. You can see how that's lighter. And then, voila, we're going to do Fresh Blood Ghost Tint. That's going to go over here, and look at how dark that is. It's also really thin. So we've got a medium that's thick. We got a lighter one that's slightly less thick, and we got our darkest one that's really thin. And we kind of use all of these together like we did here. So that is what we're looking to do here. Oh, pretty toots. Walk away for 10 minutes, and yep, that is, well, and especially at this stage, right? Because when you hit this last portion of it, it's you, all of a sudden, after the last 15%, it's like, wait a minute, what the heck happened? That's kind of how, that's sort of the fun and beauty of this method. So let's start out here again with, here, let's make sure we've got a brush that's nice and flexible here. We're going to start out with the True Blood color. You can see that it has a little thickness to it, right? But it's also on the lighter side. Now let's find a good place. See how it's transparent? That's actually what I really like about this. Now, if you've seen some of my videos where I do the blood on the snow effects, like with the wolves and stuff, I would suggest going back and finding those. They're not that far back in this. And there's some playlists too. You know, you can look through basing techniques. You can look through Song Ice and Fire. So I do suggest looking those up and seeing how this type of stuff works with, say, my snow effects. Now here, what we're going to do is we're just going to smear this stuff. Now I'm just pushing it around here because you don't necessarily want to cover this thing in the blood effects. I know it's kind of a popular thing to do, but look at this. We're just kind of letting it sort of, almost like we're weathering this. Like almost like we're putting rust on this or something. And we'll just have a little bit of that work its way down. I'll do the same over here. Now you know why I didn't invest a huge amount of time in painting all of these little teeth in here. Because I knew this was coming. Blood effects, weathering, all of that stuff is very much like chess. Oh, if you're not a patron, get out. Oh, thanks, Fruity Toots. It's the only reason that I can do those army painting things. Like, I'd have no Lord of the Rings armies if it wasn't for the Patreon page. Because how else could I paint my own armies and do all of the commission stuff that would also have to be done? So it really makes a huge, colossal difference, and it's much appreciated. And it doesn't have to be the army painter level. You know, that's the $15 a month one, although that gets you access to everything, every past tutorial, every future tutorial. And I try to, I think you can tell even with these live sessions that I try to build one thing on top of the other, so you essentially have a library to work with. And I really like that, to have essentially a library for you guys to use. Now let's have a few little things of blood down here. So I'm just going to push this around again, like I said. Now here, if I do any kind of blood drips, I'll use the combination of the blood for the blood god and the ghost tint. Because those ghost tints, those have some heftiness to them. Now, put just a bit more of this over here. Maybe a little, okay, that's okay there. Now let's start to get some of this on our base. Yeah, this is that just a first. Now you know I didn't invest too much in painting his boot because I want to do some of this. Here's our thicker material right here. And we could thicken this more even with, oh, something like a water effects or the Liquitex heavy gel. Now we're starting to build this up. See, it's actually got a little bit of body to it now. Now I could do a bunch of layers of that, and it would sort of build up that texture that you might want. See, now look at how the blood effects start to change a little bit. They're a little less orange. They're a little more opaque. A little more opacity involved here. And also opacity and now shape. There's a little more shape to this. It's the difference in that is the reason why I've got all three of these in combination. Here's some more of this. That's the blood for the blood god that we're using. But I don't want to overdo it because it takes so little to overdo these things. Now let's start to make some drips and some spatter here. I tend to not do that with that first layer, and I really like to wait with until I get to something like here, let's get a few blood drops onto here. The badger, the ghost tint here, a little more, just a blood effect working its way down like this. There. Okay, gotta do the same thing over here, although it's not quite so important to have well, let's do a little bit of thickness in some places here. Why not? Why not? So, thinking right over here, see where maybe the blood would kind of fall down. Here, let's get a few drops onto our skulls over here without going crazy, without doing too much. Without doing too much. And then we will now let's get to this. Look at that. Look at how nice and rich that color is. Wow, look at that. Now, however, it's also not very thick, so sometimes I'll combine it with something like the Blood for the Blood God that has a little more thickness to it. But think of this as almost more like a glaze. Why? Because it's a ghost tint. And if you need to coagulate this more, I would just probably mix it with some of the Wildwood, like so. And now it's even darker. Look at that. It's darker, it's even less translucent. And what we're going to do is pop that right over here. And especially on the ground, because it gets coagulated as, some dirt in there, whatever. There's some more there, but now let's go to a thinner brush here. We've got, here it is. Something like this. I don't want to lose all of the teeth here by making this that much darker, but we're going to try and get some things that drip down here. Almost like, see, it's gotten into the wrappings here around his hand and just kind of, I don't know, stained the wrappings a little bit. Yeah, let's do some over here too. Just on the other side of the hand. Now it acts as a little, see, a separation for the hand there. See, we can have that just sort of run down. But it's somewhat translucent, so it's there, but kind of not too much. And here, let's have a few. I think you can see that right here, see? We're just kind of paint a few things that sort of run down his chest. From here, like this. Now let's get it maybe a little larger dot here. Hey there, Oliver, how's it going? We're into the really fun part of blood effects here. I can go back and paint things too. It's not like the painting process is over now that we're doing blood effects, but I also want to get to foliage. And I want to try those woodland scenic trees. Yeah, I almost forgot over here. Let's get some more of the nice dark coagulated along this. Let's just pull that along here. Now I'm going to actually mix a little bit of the Blood for the Blood God in with our darkest, deepest. And now that has a little more heft to it, here, there we go. Pull that along. Some more dots there. And what's interesting when I use, say, the secret weapon, snow effects or whatever, what's wild is that it seeps into it. See, here's some more of these little channels, rivulets of blood. There's all these shapes in the weapon here, so it makes sense that they would sort of run down like little rivers here. Again, some spatter and everything else. You don't want to do the blood effects. You don't have to. I just thought for people that want to know how to mess around with these, why not try it? Okay, so to do some of the foliage things, I'm going to move the palette just at least out of the way here. So I'm going to move some of these paints. Just got to shift that out of the way. And I think we won't do we already did the vellum plants here. So let's try a little something different. And I'm going to actually take this glove off here. The gloves are coming off. This, again, from Woodland Scenics. You can see all these nifty little, look at it, it's like a little miniature tree there. So I've got one here, I got another piece there. I also have these from Green Stuff World. I'm going to pull some of these apart here. Now this is called tall foliage, and they have several different kinds. Several different kinds of this. We got to determine, okay, what's too tall? Well, there's no place for this here. It's in the way of everything. That's where we then grab a trusty scissors, which is over here. I cut it like so. Do I have a tweezers here still? Maybe, maybe. Not close enough. Where do I put? Do I put this here? No, that just kind of blocks what he's doing. Do I put this over here? Eh. Do I really like that? Or do I prefer this? Or do I like both? Oh. That's going to stick out too much. Now, here's the thing. This is going to be more fragile than this. This stuff right here, you won't have to worry about that breaking. So what I might try and do is get that placed in here. What I can do now, since this is cork, so I've got a pin right here. And I could do this with a drill too, I suppose, but what I'm going to do is, without breaking too much here, I'm just going to make myself a little bit of a hole there. Super glue. Super glue here. Again, try and spread this out just a bit. Again, this is from Green Stuff World. I'll show you the packaging in a bit. But I just want to get this in place. So see what that does there? See how that starts to frame it a little bit? And we're going to add some more flock around here. And add some more flock there too. Now, I could cut this down even more and have that over here, or I could try one of these little tree-like pieces here. And this would have a little more support. Now, that still is going to get in the way. Still might just get in the way. So what I'm going to do is cut some of this even shorter. This happens a lot, by the way, where I say, well, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, and I say, well, that just doesn't work, we're going to do this. And that happened a lot with that basing project that I showed you guys very early on in the process here. So then just kind of poking a hole into this. It's just cork. And just got to rip some of that away. Throw some super glue there. And there's that. Would be nice if I had my tweezers, but I don't. So now we've got some greenery here. And we are going to now grab some, here it is, sand and gravel glue. That's this stuff here. And we've got some flock. This is from Woodland Scenics. I think that time I really did get the camera pretty good. It's a mix of a couple of different kinds. There's some green in there, there's some brown. We are going to grab ourselves a little container here. Put the sand and gravel glue in there. It's not a super glue, it's really not Elmer's glue. The nice thing is that when this stuff dries, it's not glossy or anything, but it's something you can just brush on real easy. So I'm going to put this, again, out of harm's way here. So I'm just trying to show you some alternatives to static grass, I suppose, if anything else. Let's grab this and let's start over here. I'll look at the chat in a second, as this is a little bit of a timing thing here. We got to make sure that this is, we use this right away. And now that seam there, whatever, that origin point of this, it's hidden now. I'd also probably wait a little longer because I've got some blood effects that are drying here. So that's a little on the risky side, but we don't have all day, or in my case, all night or whatever. So we got to do this, got to accelerate the process a little bit here. So what do we got here? We've got a texture thing now. Difference between the blood. We have red versus green. We're always constantly trying to find those differences, right? Now I don't want to do it here. There's a blood effect there. I don't want to cover up the entire cork base with this stuff. So again, I'll check out the is that Bob Smith Industries glue. This is it's from MIG Ammo, and that's sand and gravel glue. I love it when I'm doing my World War II vehicles and I want to add some, say, leaves or something like that to the hull. It just works so well for that. It's just amazing. Now you know why I let the base just be darker here. Yeah, look at that. That's I may even change my lights here a little bit just for a second so you can see that. So I will just give me a second here to change these lights over. Yeah. Yeah, let me get another light into this so you can kind of see here again the green there. So I love having all these different. Yeah, actually we also have the glossiness of the blood effects too. It's a whole nother thing. Let's see, they're translucent there. All that stuff we did underneath, that's starting to show through. We have layers. We have a foreground here, right? That's the skull. There's a middle ground there. Now we have a background. We have this basically a small, 32 millimeter base, and we've got foreground, middle ground, background. It's almost like a little diorama base, and this is playable. I mean, we can definitely, have this out on the battlefield and play with it. Now, I could still try and find a space for one of these guys, but that there's plenty of stuff going on here. Plenty of stuff going on. We'll just, like I said, those other big old bases, we'll be playing with those soon enough. Yeah, let's get the palette back where you can see it. So Anabolic asks, are you a creature of the night like me? Well, typically I am working till 5:30 in the morning, mostly because I film these at this time because nobody's going to be ringing the doorbell. At least you hope not. There's not going to be phone calls or package deliveries because we have lots of packages coming in. Practically every day is a package of something, or I have to mail packages. So you're not going to get a lot of deliveries at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're not going to be taking many deliveries to the post office or wherever. So that's kind of why you see these things at this time. And Tutti Fruits, the bottle looks the same. There's a whole lot of products from 3 different companies that kind of are the same. Like the Abtalung paints are basically MIG Ammo oil brushers. I know because I've used them, and they're the same thing, especially since a lot of the names of the colors are exactly the same. So yeah, there's going to be an awful lot of identical things going on with those. I guess I should get my glove back on here. It's not to protect me or the miniature. It's really more to keep my skin color from interfering with the colors on the miniature. So if you're wondering why I wear the gloves, that would be why. Now I want to find. This is where I can do some refinements of things. And here on the underside of. Yes, and you get a little more lights in there. This is not got a lot of stuff going on. There, make that a little more interesting. And I could spend hours doing this. I could just say the heck with it, take it off the base and use it tomorrow. And after I've take it off the base, use it tomorrow, I can put it right back onto this thing and paint some more. So that is something that I emphasize in those army painting series. We try and get something to a certain point where it's playable. That's generally at the end of episode 3, because each series is usually 5 episodes long. Episodes 1 is basing, episode 2 is a color test figure, and we're trying to figure out a color scheme, and each one is a different thing. Like the Easterling color scheme, well, that was me trying to match something that I'd done years ago. The Harad color scheme was something that would make them look like allies of the Easterlings, but still have their own individual color scheme. The Warcry stuff, I wanted to do something Zinchi, but I didn't want to do the same emphasis on blues and that sort of thing with those Cypher Lords. So in that series, that's why I came up with some kind of freehand. We did the freehand on the bases. And yeah, I'll show you those in a second here. I just want to, again, using the Lamian medium to thin things down, using it for glazing too. So it can do a bunch of different things. That's nice to know. You never know until you try something how it's really going to work. So again, mix in a Achillean green and some of the white and such together. Oh heck, I might even throw a little bit of that into the cape here. Now I'm going to go straight Wildwood here. We need to, I don't even know if you can see this. Probably not. I just needed to, yeah. You get a little separation there. Now let's get another little reflection on the helmet down here. That's better. Just needing that. Yeah. When you everything reflects something. Your skin reflects like the shirt that you're wearing. If it's a green shirt, guess what? You got green reflecting on your face. Your face is not made of metal, unless you're, oh gosh, what were the robot dudes from Doctor Who? The oh gosh, Cybermen. That's yeah. Even if unless you're a cyber, even if you're not a Cyberman, your face still reflects other colors. How's that sound? Hey, it's getting late. I'm on hour like 21 or 22, so you should definitely do some Twitch streams. Yeah, and Tutti Fruits. I have those also. They're really good too. And the oil brushers, you could step on those and probably not have to worry about them. Not like a ketchup container would just shoot all over the place. But actually, yes, anabolic. I don't know. I think you heard earlier that I wanted to try doing some Twitch things now. I do actually have an account, just Wapelius, just like my Instagram account. I tried keeping it simple so that people could find it real easy. Nothing crazy, just the usual name that I use for most everything else. And sometime, maybe over the next week, I'll give that a shot and just see if it works. Now, expect some crazy things to happen because I've never used it before. It took me long enough to just figure out this YouTube thing and the chat and everything else. But it's, yeah, I try to definitely do something really different from everybody else because, well, I see an awful lot of things that where it's just the same technique over and over, and I said, well, okay, those techniques all make sense. They're totally valid, but we have all of these amazing tools that are being made for us. Why are we not kind of pushing the envelope with those? Like the contrast paints here and this Lamian medium, and why not play around with it and see what new things you could do with it? So remember we were talking about the greens. Well, we're going to actually get some greens into this cloak here, just cause. starting to like my blues in here. Again, that's the Leviathan Blue and that Fenrisian Gray sort of mixed together. So I will, yeah, I'll try and start doing the Twitch thing there. I figured, well, now is the time to do it when, unlike here, I won't, there won't be all of a sudden people right away asking questions because they're like, hey, Jim's live. Now, if you're not doing the Twitch thing and you're seeing this on YouTube, if you want to get notifications for things like this, well, you do the subscribe thing, but apparently, and I found this out the hard way myself, you've got to, I guess, click on the all notifications bell because, well, I subscribed to pages and wondered why am I not seeing any. I know they're doing new videos because I run across them on accident, but why am I not seeing, why am I not getting alerts? Well, I didn't do the click on the bell. So, yeah, that's apparently a thing you got to do. Got to click on the all notifications bell. Well, I got this other, this might be a Raptorix skull here. You know, that's maybe what this is. Where's my Raptorix? So this is the snow one that I did. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I do have one. So this was a previous episode right here. This is how we did snow effects and ice. But see how the blood effects could have sink down into the snow? Yeah, that's like a Raptorix skull right there. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, Murdered Chicken versus Untamed Beast. Look at this, an animated show. This is fantastic television on YouTube. Oh, what was that? Yeah, curse you and your inevitable betrayal. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna try and find me some more highlights here. Yeah, let's get a few more here, and then also there's like a little, I don't know if that's an intentional cut in there or if that's more battle damage, but it needed a little more something right there. Let's get this cape. It makes his shoulder sink down more into a shadow area there. You can do a dual YouTube and Twitch stream at the same time. I know, well, sometimes they don't like to play with each other. I know some people that something weird happens, and I forget what it is. Oh, that's right. YouTube treated their stuff as spam and killed their channel. And all they were doing was they were broadcasting on Twitch, and they had to go to YouTube. And the next thing you knew, YouTube said, you are spamming your own account. We will close it for you. So that I probably won't do because that would be very unfortunate for me if that happened. But you will have your YouTube followers here. Yeah, that is, let's see, what was that? Something like 5,500 subscribers here. And, well, the rationale was why would I want to? I mean, it's taken 6 years of being on YouTube to get to this point. Do I really want to try this again on another platform? But that's kind of the benefit because, well, people wouldn't necessarily know it's there, which means I could kind of stealthily build up that audience and build up the appearance of it. Now, I'll still be using XSplit because that's what I'm using right now. So it should look exactly like this or darn near like this. The chat thing might look a little different depending on how Twitch has me doing it, but I'll give it a shot. If it doesn't work, no big deal. If it does work, yay. But I guess there's just different levels of things. So there's followers, there's subscribers, and then there's something else. And if you have a certain number of followers, this happens. And, well, it's kind of like YouTube. This many subscribers, this many views, this many minutes watched or whatever. You get different features, I guess is the word. So now I will find a few more light highlights on the skin tones also, and up there. Yeah. So don't mind me if I sort of talk to myself occasionally here too, because, well, when it's this long in the day. Oh yeah, something else I wanted to show here. You know, the foliage tends to be, and I'm going to get me something to drink here real quick. Here we go. Okay, oh, and Fruity Toots and donations. Oh yeah. I don't know quite how that works there. It's another thing I'll find out the hard way, I'm sure. Oh, well, we're going to take some snakebite leather here. We're going to take some Achillean green over here. And we are going to... I have contrast medium, but I'm going to use Lamian medium here. We're not using water, we're using Lamian medium. We got a bunch of it sitting in there. So I've got kind of a brownish green here, if there is such a thing. And let's play with our foliage. You may not be able to see this, but what I'm doing is... Actually, you can paint this foliage here, and it's not a lot. But since this is kind of a little bit of a wash here, see, it gets down, and now some of those lighter colored leaves are going to show up that much more. It's going to look less like just foliage that you attached and something that you actually built up. I kind of was doing this before, and then I sort of forgot about painting foliage. I think it was when I was doing the vellum butterflies. I painted the foliage a little bit to get the butterflies to show up more, but see how that's darker now and the lighter leaves show up? Yeah, you know, I had thought of with the YouTube thing here of, well, I know some people, they've basically kind of put their, what is it, their PayPal address on their screen or whatever so that people can donate there, but that seemed a little hairy to me. I wasn't so sure about that because, well, everybody can see that, not just the friendly folks that are watching your video. So, yeah, I thought, well, no, we'll just let the Twitch thing, like I said, has its own donation thing, and that should work. So I'm taking that same green now. I'm doing some glazes over here. Remember, color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. We are going to put some of this glaze a little bit of everywhere, like here. I'm going to put some of it over here. And all that was just Achillean green, little snakebite leather to make it sort of a, I guess a dirty green, if you want to call it that. Get a little separation there with his boot. Yeah, look, well, it's there, that nice little glaze. So I think sometimes people just think of the contrast paint as something that you slop on at the beginning at $8 a jar. Yay for GW. Or you can use it like this, where we're only using tiny little amounts of it, and it's really serving a real direct purpose. You know, we can use it as a glaze. Speaking of glaze, okay, here we go. We got contrast paint. Oh, no, we'll use the Lamian medium here. Oh, let's see if I can do some kind of, like almost a staining of this in just a few places here. I don't know how perceptible that's going to be because, again, we've thinned down those contrast paints a lot. But see, like right there, see that's darker. Nice little stain there on the cloak. Let's do some green here. Like I said, we could do some mud stains on this. We could do all kinds of nifty stuff, but it's like that green leads right into the plant here. So instead of standing out too much, now it kind of blends in. Let's double down on that maybe. Because, hey, why not? Push some of this around again. Here, let's use our Lamian medium to push that around. So I would say that was pretty successful too, is our test with the Lamian medium. So you will see that some more. That's for sure. I gotta work that into some more stuff. Gotta figure out a way to do that because I think it'll be really neat. So now I've got me a little more contrast going on with the helmet here. I try and maybe reflect this thing that's kind of sitting over the top of the helmet there. Now let's compare them to. So we've got, again, so really fun to look at our blood effects there. Those are kind of matching. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Tui Fruits. I appreciate that. Well, there's so many new things to try. Okay, you got the new green stuff world paints. You've got chimera colors. That creature caster, they did the transparents. Remember those? And we did some episodes trying those out because they were really nifty. Now that's Leviathan Blue, by the way, and look at see how that makes it even darker. So yeah, we haven't messed around with this stuff on the base since the very beginning of this thing. I think when we started this maybe 2 hours and 35 minutes ago, something like that. I want to say. And this thing, I mean, it was just bare primer. There was nothing on this. This is not like the second or third episode painting is. This is all one shot right here. You can go back to the beginning and watch. You don't have to trust me on that. So if you want to maybe get some methods for making these armies go a little bit faster, but yet have a step up from the usual. Not necessarily like you're trying to win an armies on parade, or best painted at a tournament or something. It doesn't have to be that. Oh, it couldn't hurt if you are, because you can look at my blog. That's gonna be scrolling across the screen there too. It's wapeliusblogspot.com. You can see my Tomb King's army there, my Lizardmen army, my Grey Knight's army, my Sisters of Battle army. You can see the display boards that I made. The most recent display board that I made was for my Bolt Action army, my Monte Cassino Fallschirmjägers. I literally made a small portion of Monte Cassino and made the bases to match. And actually, the more support that I can get on the Patreon page or the Twitch channel, if I just start doing that, it basically means I can do more of this. The more of that I can go towards the video side of things and less of having to do just lots of commissions and stuff. Well, it cuts down exponentially on a lot of those other things that kind of get in the way of doing this. Now I'm going back to that green mix again here. You can paint the flock here too. I've done that. You got to be careful. You don't want it to just all coagulate, but sometimes no matter how many different colors you try and throw in the flock, it ends up being a little bit the same. So I'll just throw a little bit of paint in there. I also have the sand and gravel glue drying, so I don't want to mess with that too much. Here, let's get some of that darker. So yeah, we're going to stain up these skulls here with that same color. It makes sense that they would be kind of stained the same color as the ground around them. So let's do some of that. That makes sense. Now I was looking at my other. Now, of course, you don't have to have the flesh tones be exactly the same. But I'm going to see if I can't get a little bit of almost that bluish gray color. Now, so bear with me while I grab me a brush here. What do we want to do? What do we want to do for that bluish gray? Grab some of this. This is the Leviathan Blue mix from really early on. mixed with a little bit of the green. Let's see what happens. Let's see. It's right there. That is about, yep, that is about the color I was looking for. And I wanted to get that. There's some Leviathan, not Leviathan, Lamian medium to get that going. I need some separation here because we got too much similarity between the cloak and the skin tone. Does a couple of things. It gives me reflected light there. And also juxtaposes that reddish color with a green. That's what I needed. And here too, this is another area where the skin's gonna have more blues and greens. It's pointing down towards the ground, which is, well, green for the most part because of, well, plants and all that. So yeah, see that? That adds a lot more. Yeah, as this turns around here, let's get a little more of this going. So it gives a few things. Reflected light. It gives us a little more fun colors in here. Yeah, we're gonna, and look at how much darker it is than the white. You can see that there. Anabolic says if I could paint like this, I'd paint for 20 hours straight too. It makes it more fun, and boy, well, you know how many times I've said it's kind of a weird obsession that I'm starting to have with making this stuff more fun for people. Because man, it just it tears at me to see people, they're not doing this for a living, and they're treating it like it's work, or it feels like work, and they just don't want to do it. And they still like miniatures, but they don't like how the miniatures make them feel, I guess, because it just kind of reminds them of what they weren't able to accomplish, or that it's kind of drudgery, and they just didn't. Nobody wants to do something that's drudgery, especially not in your few hours of time where you're not at work or doing whatever else. That's certainly not a fun thing. Yeah, look at that. That is so much more transition there. I looked at that other one, and that told me it's, hey, you're missing something here. So that's why I try and have the references handy, but I couldn't make those big enough. Oh yeah, this was so necessary. I got to do it over here too, which you pretty much can't see. Apologize for that. It's got to happen over here too. Can you see it? Yeah, it's got to happen over here. Yeah. Now that sort of reflection on the legs, that was taken to an extreme in my last session that I did earlier this week. So there's your Captain Marvel, but he's got the shiny spandex suit on, so you could look at that reflected light in there. The reds reflect, see how the blue reflects on the red, and vice versa. There's even some blue and that gold trim. Now here we don't have all that super shiny stuff, but we need some of it, like right here. Okay, on this top of this pectoral muscle here. Now the Lamian medium, what that does is it keeps this from getting too opaque. So now it becomes just a suggestion of that greenish gray. Look at, you have your light color here, transitions into this sort of a pinkish color. Remember we put that, and then all of a sudden green, but in a shadow area. It's weird, it's lighter, but because it's that greenish gray, you're essentially getting several different forms of contrast. So remember our thing where we kill the color? Zoom. So you can see plenty of shading. All our lights and darks are just fine, but we've taken away, I don't want to say the artificial thing, but the eye just kind of, it can correct things. Sometimes you have to, like I say, if you can do it, maybe take black and white pictures of your miniatures. That will let you know right away, do you have sufficient lights and darks? And that's not enough. Do you have sufficient interest in your midtones? And there's nothing complicated about midtones. That is just If you're going to go 1 to 10 on a value scale, mid-tones, those are generally 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1 through 3 are your lights. 8 through 10 are your darks. Those other numbers, that's all the stuff in between. All the stuff in between. Let's get some of that same grayish green, and it literally is a grayish green color, and we are painting flesh tone with it and having a blast. Let's do some of that. Now that is a lighter color. We don't want to totally wipe out our shadows here, so we have to be careful. And at every point along the way, I've said too much of anything is too much, and it gets there in a hurry. So just like on the Captain Marvel figure that I showed you, again, doing that same bit of grayish green here in those shadow areas. And I know Kathy, my wife, when she does now she does the Twitch thing, and like I said, she'll be starting up again next Tuesday. But was it the Frazetta skin tone, right? Yeah, she really loves the Frazetta skin tones, and I mean, is this not kind of a Frazetta pose? Well, if I'm gonna have that, well, I should really do the same kind of greens and purples that he does. Oh, let's see. Next time you stream live, you expect to see that donation link. Well, there's the super chat. Apparently, that lets people do the donation thing. I guess that's something I've got to look into. It took me so long just to get the regular chat thing to show up here. I was like, do I really want to now struggle with a whole nother chat mechanism there? And anabolics, it takes me 10 times as long to get nowhere near as good a result as this. Kind of demotivating. Yeah, well, I know there was the comment that was left the other day. It's, oh, this is motivating and demotivating all at the same time. Well, just think of this. When we first started painting, we would prime things black, right? Like, because you were supposed to. And we would just do all these layering of lighter colors, and it took a week, and they looked, well, compared to what we do now, they look absolutely atrocious. I look at stuff that I even did 5 years ago, and I'll say, oh yeah, that's not too shabby, but boy, that took way longer. I could do that now in a fraction of the time. So here, look at this. See that green that's there? Look at how he got the rosiness there around the knee. A little more of a pale, almost yellowish flesh tone there. And now you've got this greenish gray here on the interior. Why? Because it's sort of facing down towards the ground and some other metals. I'm tempted to, well, let's try it. What the heck? Like I said, you only live once, and that usually stops right like towards the end for whatever reason. But let's see if we can't get a little bit of reflected light there. So I just lighten this up a little bit here. I'm going to say I want some down here. Now, at the risk of this starting to look a little non-metallic metal-esque with all the reflected stuff, but I'm going to take that chance anyway because I'm liking the additional little, yeah. Now, I can always say do the Lamian medium and go back into those more traditional skin tones as well, but look at this. See, down in that little area there, that little bit of greenish gray, what that adds. It's not a bad idea also because, well, we've painted on a lot of the bone surfaces. We're going to put some of it on the cape here. You can see how that affects some of the darker colors there. So let's go, oh, what the heck, we'll go back into this pink here and some yellow. Let's hit the cloak again. Like here, yeah. This is going to be more of, see it like a broken highlight. think of this as something that's maybe on a sword blade. I like to do that where there's should be some wear and tear, but here we're going to do this again. So I don't want to go too much past that down to here. This is the other thing we used to do in the early days when I look at, that's how I can tell something that was painted, I don't know, 6 to 8 years ago versus now, is that towards the bottom there's equal highlighting and such towards the very bottom as there is on the top of their heads. And when you really think about it, you say, "What? Why did I do that? That wasn't really smart," because, well, it would be lighter at the top of their head and darker down by their feet, not just as light. But at the time, that basically it was an obsession with just, well, shading. Get that shading there. Speaking of which, there's so much, there's such a broad expanse here. I'm going to see if I can't now. There's stuff in the way. Now I see why I've been kind of avoiding that area. But I'm trying to get a skin tone here that has a little more flavor to it. Not necessarily lighter, but see, that's that pink. What is that? The pink horror. Pink horror. Lightening this up here. Yeah. Okay, so that. Now we've got the three things. We've got that more pale, sort of yellowish skin color there. Now something that's more of a orangey pink, and then actually another bar here of some of our original shading color, and then some of that greenish gray, which is right next to this. All right, now I wish you could. Ooh, I'm gonna do this, so bear with me for a second here. Okay, see those two colors there? We're gonna do our little trick. Zoink. Can't even see them anymore. They're identical, practically identical, light and dark wise. Let's bring this up again. Look at how different these two colors are. Yet you kill the color, the value is exactly the same. There is no difference between them. That's why I'm always talking about all those different types of contrast, and we've got most of them playing out here. We have red versus green, so we have opposites. Red versus green. We have saturated versus darn near completely desaturated over here. So you have all kinds of stuff going on, and they're right next to each other. But that's what creates a little extra turn here. See, I'm going to double down on a little bit of lighter color, and also then a little more intense. It's more pure. How do we get that greenish gray? We basically took a red and a green, mixed them together, made sort of a brown. We throw some blue in there. Now you got some of your gray happening. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do that here too. Where are we at here? Hope you can see what I'm doing right there. Yeah, I don't want to lose my blood drips here. That's why typically that's something I probably would have saved until now instead of, what was it? Maybe about an hour ago when we did the blood effects. So yeah, we're getting some nifty grays there. You know what? Those need to go here too. I'm going to put those over here. But I also have, was it the Rhinox hide? Yeah. So I'm going to mix that with the Rhinox hide here. I'm just looking to get ever so slight, there. I just need a little bit of reflected light on that. That's all. And for everybody that's kind of coming in now, be sure to go back to the beginning, because this entire thing has been painted all in just this session here. I started, let's see, 2 hours and 50 minutes ago, something like that, maybe. 2 hours and 49 minutes and 35 seconds. How does that sound? And hopefully, like I said, you you watch these once, you will not then be able to probably do this in 2 hours, 49 minutes, and 51 seconds. Oh, Will, how's it going? This time, instead of the vellum plants, I used, where the heck, oh, here it is. So this is the tall foliage from Green Stuff World. I just put 2 little tufts there, and then I just used some Woodland Scenics flock. We kept it simple because I knew there was a little bit more going on with this thing, and I didn't want to also have to paint the vellum plants. Plus, people saw that. Well, you can see it. If you haven't already seen that one, go check that out. That was maybe, oh, what would you guys say, a month ago? Maybe not even, when I did the other Untamed Beast live session. So these are the vellum plants we were just talking about there. And then this is the Green Stuff World foliage. But both of them have the same Green Stuff World skulls on them. So now let's compare our skin tones here. Yeah, there's a little more synergy between those skin tones now. There we go. But see, we've got that kind of sky blue color there. And now we've got it on his helmet too. I've got the rest of these. I think there's what, 6 more, right? Usually 8 in a faction. So I'll paint those 2. I might even try painting a few of them in oils. If I do that, I'd probably try painting 3 of them at once, because that's what oils are really handy for, is doing a lot of figures all at once. So again, trying to seek out a little more reflected light here and some more greens in the shadows. These shadows just need to be a little darker. So again, I'm using Lamian medium here. I'm gonna throw some Leviathan blue there. Oh heck, I'm gonna go with a little bit of that Vulpus pink and Rhinox hide. Let's see if we can't get a little bit of a dark in there without confusing that with our blood that we did. Okay, so there's some dark. That also needs to be darker, but it can't be that reddish. Otherwise, it's just going to blend right into the blood effects. Ah, darker now. Yeah, that's darker. Go more of the Lamian medium here to... That's been very successful. I was really surprised at just how successful that was. Where are we at? Okay, good. I think you can see this. Where else? Ah, I think I do also need to reinforce a few darks over here too. Not too much. Just like you can go too crazy with highlights, you can go too crazy with making everything dark. And if you're going to make things darker, make sure that the dark is a color. That whole thing of blacklining, I know I try to always dispel that ever happens. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, there's another dark line here. Again, trying to get these sort of linear effects on the helmet here. That's another way to make things look like some kind of metal that's been worked in some way. Now, we need some darks. Yeah. We need some darks right over here. I know this is not the most interesting view right now, but those needed also to be... They need a little clarity. That's better. Looking to do a little bit of a dark under there. Got that Raptoric skull. I think I'll leave that be. I won't mess with that too much. I am going to get some darks back down into here again. So yeah, we did blood effects here. We did foliage. Uh, I will try, and I don't know if any of these really are things I'll be able to hit with freehand or not. I had thought about doing it on this cloak here, but then I thought, no, let's just, we don't want to give people too many things to absorb all at once. Oh yeah, the GSW foliage. What would you say? There's 5 of the tall foliage things. I think I've tried them all. I tried the yellow, the orange, the red, the sort of cattails type thing. Tried them all. And Bethany, yeah, you know how much I love my oils. You know I love those a lot. And actually, like I said, those large scale things that are coming here, the Ossiarchs. There's so many things that are intended for oils down the line. Oh, and Will says he's got a Lizardman Astrolith bear next in the queue. Well, let's see. You're familiar. You've seen the blog posts, right? That's Wapilius, blogspot.com. If you go to Warhammer Fantasy Lizardmen, there will be hundreds of posts on all the Lizardman stuff that I did. I do have some Lizardmen on my Instagram account, but the Lizardmen I did a while back, that is something that I'll probably try again. I do have other Lizardman figures here, so I will. Well, oh yeah. Speaking of Lizardman, wait a second. This is series 15, so this is another one of my Patreon series. This is the Coer Test figure. Good grief! Yeah, the brand new Lizardmen. There, we did a whole special on the basing, and every player is going to get a different color scheme. Yeah. So now these aren't GW figures here, but you can get a sense for what's going to happen here. So we'll do a scheme like that. We got this nifty, see, look at that kind of nifty green going on there. So each of the skink and saurus will all be different colors. So yeah, there will be lizard men, because hey, they're lizard men, and I'm not calling them Seraphon. No siree. So we're just working some more darks into this again. Uh, yeah, the Instagram thing. Gosh, I forget when I started doing that. I didn't really know what could be posted on that. Oh yeah, speaking of Instagram, you can do 10-minute videos now. The downside is they have to be recorded in a vertical format. So I'll try and see if I can get these cameras to go into a vertical format that's usable. Otherwise, maybe I'll just see if I can use the phone. But eventually, I guess they're gonna go to maybe hour-long videos that you can do on Instagram. Oh, not IGTV. Well, still Instagram. You get where I'm going with that. So maybe I'll try and do portions of something there. Paint part of a figure there. That could be a sort of a de facto kind of a Twitch thing there. The other thing I'm going to try and do is film just some kind of videos of the armies on the table, because there's something about that kind of a video which makes the army seem a little more alive than just a bunch of photos of them. So we'll see how that works. I have no idea just yet. So I'm going to go back to this ochre type thing. I think that is Xandri dust. I could be wrong. I still haven't had a chance to look yet. I'm just looking to get some nifty little highlights here. That, remember what we just talked about? Those cannot be as light as those, because that's insane. It should almost be in shadow here, but it needs a little separation from, say, the boots and stuff, so we get special dispensation to do that. That's all in shadow. No point in screwing around with that. bring out a few of these. Those, that needs some kind of... Yeah, there's just nothing going on. I don't know if you can see it. It's probably blocked by another element there, but that needed to be lighter. And actually, the brush ended up hitting this here, and I'm glad it did, because I'm going to utilize that like so. All right. What else? What? Oh yeah, this strapping on this handle here. Uh, oh yeah. Well, thanks again, Tutti Fruits. It's it scared me when I reached 100 hours of videos for someone that signs up for the first time doing the army painter thing, and then it didn't take all that much longer to get to 200 hours, and it won't take long where I'm closer to 300 hours than 200 hours, which is even more scary. Because well, let's see, I've got the... Well, right now there's 2 army painting series going on, but there's going to be a 3rd one started soon. And if you're wondering why all the army painting series, well, I have a lot of armies to paint. I got, oh geez, well, 17 bolt action armies. I've got now probably about 6 different Lord of the Rings armies that need to be worked on. Here, let's go. So just see like that. It's not, the whole thing is not a one continuous long highlight that goes all the way down. It's sort of a broken highlight. Follows the texture of the, oh, what would you call it there? The fabric or leather, whatever that is. Because if that's just one solid line, that's going to be really distracting. And I mean really distracting. Now, yeah. See what we've got, these alternating things of sort of a middle tone, then a light, then a dark, then kind of a bluish color, then almost a skin color there. All of those little variations like that, that's what's going to give you, what is that? Variety is the spice of life. Well, variety is what makes non-metallic metal. You need a variety in your colors and your lights and darks. All right. Now it is just about 5 a.m. here. Oh, Bethany, what does Bethany say? Not so sure about that. There are so many videos and so few hours in the day. Ah, oh, so I'm taking you away from your homework. Uh-huh, that is what I'm doing. I am I am mischievous that way. But the nice thing is that, well, that, with the, as much as, well, you don't have to listen to me answering a bunch of other questions too on the recorded ones. That's why I try and do both, because answering questions here, well, Kathy noticed this too on her streams. The more people that were in, the more people she was talking to, well, the less painting got done, because, well, you're looking at all the different questions and everything else. So it's understandable. Now I need to get on the flip side of this, I need to get a dark over here. Again, not all the way down there, but just a little hint of it there. Ooh, can I get some of this? Well, you can't. It's blocked by the weapon there. I need it. Ah, there it is. That's the separation I need to see between that and this. But separation-wise, I got to go back into this sort of a greenish color here. Can I even get this? You can't see what I'm doing. I try to avoid things you guys can't see, but it's important. I got to do it while I'm thinking about it, because I will definitely forget. Because it's been a long, 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 long day. Good grief. There. Yeah, so Bethany, I don't know if you saw the link for the latest one. So how does one typical from transition from the typical slower painting methods to what you're doing here? For me, it sort of had to happen instantaneously because of just the armies that I was working on. It was a lizardman army that was all skink based and croxigores. So I had all of these skinks and croxigores to paint, and they were all in different color schemes. To make that happen, that's where I came up with the shaded base coat technique. And by shaded base coat, it's what you saw early on, where I just did a bunch of sort of glazes, and then I refined later on, like I'm doing here. So that's kind of the core of it, where you're keeping the colors relatively simple. You don't have a million colors out there. You are not doing a lot of, that prime it really dark and layer, layer, layer. Less with the layers, more with the glazing. So that it kind of gives you a little bit of a hint. Now here, obviously, with the skin tones, I'm treating myself here. So I added a little bit of that reddish pink down in there. Tutti Fruits, I'm sorry if I sound, but does Kathy have a YouTube? She's just doing the Twitch channel right now. That's part of the More Than Dice thing. Our goal, I've been moving furniture for 3 months now, basically, to try and set up a new area where the two of us could potentially be painting together, and it would sort of be an evening with the Wapples. And we'd both be painting. It wouldn't be quite so much of like this, where I'm trying to show you a lesson, like taking this guy from nothing to finished in one session. This would more be just us hanging out, and remember that painting group thing we were talking about earlier? It would be something like that. So most likely some of Kathy's Twitch followers. Now it wouldn't be at this time because Kathy is not a wee hours person at all. She is a daytime person. So yeah, those it would be sometime just during the regular evening hours. But it would hopefully be the two of us just kind of hanging out with hopefully hundreds of thousands of our closest friends. Or in lieu of that, just a handful. And that's where we would just kind of work on our regular projects. Again, nothing formal. I might just be prepping miniatures because, well, heck, people, they've never really seen me do that process at all. So maybe there's value in that too. And it would sort of kind of combine that power together of Twitch and YouTube without her having to struggle starting a whole new YouTube thing like me, and what it's going to be like for me starting a whole new Twitch thing. All right, that's yeah, we're starting to get some nifty little things going on. I do like the contrast that's happening down there. Look, oh, Electronic Hexagon. It's actually worth checking her stuff out. Yeah, she's been, well, speaking of, I almost said Song of Ice and Fire, but speaking of Warcry, she's kind of putting the finishing details on her iron golems, right? That's what they're called. And we both have the terrain. We're both going to try and paint that on our respective things. Who knows? Maybe that's what we're also painting on our evening at the Wapples or with the Wapples there. I'm kind of getting blocked here by the foliage, but I'm trying to. There. Yep. Just follow Kathy, but I was just checking to see if she did the YouTube thing too. Oh, hey Dominic, how's it going? Yeah, it has been a really long day. Oh yeah, look at how that's. So you've got that gray And there it's surrounded by all those different skin tones. Oh, the other thing I want to try and do, and these would be Instagram type things, because, well, you can do a 10-minute video. Well, I've got one of those sort of lazy Susan type things, a battery operated that kind of spins around. That might be more interesting looking at the miniatures than just the photos of them. So you might see those videos coming along. All right. I'm going to get maybe a touch of brighter highlights here on this, on the weapon and some. I don't want to play around too much with that. Let's just, sometimes the enemy of good, well, not sometimes, all the time, the enemy of good is better. The mortal enemy of good is better. And I think Bethany was, you were part of that little chat where we were coming up with all the different ways of phrasing that good is the enemy of better, or better is the enemy of everything, pretty much, of the universe. Sometimes it just has to be good enough. This is definitely, I want to say, a real successful experiment with the Lamian medium. And now the first time that I used like the contrast paints and these GW paints, was it June when all that first hit? I was not having a whole lot of fun using the GW paints. And I just kind of then skipped them, didn't really use them after that. But that Lamian medium makes them way more usable. I've completely forgotten here that I'm not using the Reaper Clear and Liner paints. I have absolutely forgotten, because I'm doing a lot of things here that I would normally do with those. So once again, another successful, I want to say a successful experiment. When you don't even notice you're using something absolutely completely different that you've never used before. But that's another, I know Kathy and I, we talk about that a lot. Sometimes you just have to trick yourself and to say, well, there's nothing different here. I'm just using the same old stuff, because people can get really anxious about new things. Like, oh, this is new. New is scary and bad. Well, it can be, especially if you let it be. But sometimes if you just think of it as, yeah, okay, I'm just using my usual stuff, completely forgetting this is Lamian medium, that this is all GW paint, and I was all set to, just have the Reaper paints out here because, well, I just needed to chill and not try something that was brand new for me. Well, that didn't go very far with that. Oh, Dominic says he picked up a set of the rat. Oh, you got a set of murder chickens now. I've got to figure out what the heck the other guys are called. The ones with the, kind of like with the bat wings and everything, because I've got to get to those. I have to get to those and try some of it in oils, and then some with the same sort of ice effects and snow that we did on one of the murdered chickens, and the same lava effect that we did on the other, because, hey, lava on those leathery wings, well, not on them. That would be destructive. I'm trying to get a little more reflected light back there. So yeah, we're definitely, I was hoping to take advantage of this with all the exposed skin here to really go crazy with all of these grays and everything. And I think we did it. I think we managed to do that. Here's a little more shadow right here. Somehow lost in translation. There's a little bit. Yeah. I just needed to go back in. That's that Rhinox hide. It's going to take me a while to get used to the names. Vulpus pink, right? Yeah. It will take a while. That is not going to happen overnight. And if I mess up on a name, I apologize for that. Now I'm going to see what I can do with some of the Lamy and medium. Let's take what's left of the white here. Go with this Vulpes pink and around the edges of this some kind of a scar, whatever this is here. Sort of fade that out a little bit, extend it out a little. That's good. That worked out okay. Huh, I was about to paint the back of the hand that's not there. That does not need pink because it has a giant thing of bone over the top of it. This, however, does not. I will hit this cloak in a few places here again, using that Lamian medium to make somewhat of a glaze out of it. Yeah. Thinking about, nope, I gotta resist trying to throw a little bit of a highlight there. Must resist. Now, speaking of something that's lighter, we're gonna get a mid-tone. It's here in the helmet. I need more of this color here. I'll just take the, but that's some of the original skin tone and green mix that we used. That's gonna go here on the back of the helmet there. All right, so that works. Okay. Oh, Fruity Toots is newest growth and learn. Yeah, is learning in this hobby. Furies, yes. The other critters are Furies. I think that'll stay in my mind now. I think it will. Just looking to get a few more. See, I like that little bit of blue there, but I need to. I'm gonna use the Fenrisian gray here, and we will try to. There's some weird kind of lines here. Maybe if that was metal, it would do that, but it's not metal. So that cleans that out a little bit. Hey, Comitrion. Oh, yes, you'll, well, I'm gonna have to go to sleep pretty soon here because it's darn near 22 and a half hours since I was last asleep. But definitely, oh, you'll definitely want to start this thing from scratch because there's a whole bunch of new stuff going on here. This is all GW paints. I mean, like for the first time in many, many, many years. And I'm using the Lamian medium. Never tried it before ever. To the point where that's where the water usually goes. I mean, you know, but that's actually Lamian medium this time. Here, yeah, that needs that there. We're definitely starting to work some fun colors into our helmet. Oh, thanks again. The usual thing where we're trying to come up with those color surprises, that bluish gray, which is also in the cape, and then we had some real fun putting this greenish gray into the skin tones here. Yeah, I think you'll want to go back and check that out because there's some, and it's done with the GW paints, which I did not think was possible. I literally did not think I could do this with the GW paints. I thought I would have to have, well, my usual Reaper and Green Stuff World and Creature Caster paints. So, yeah, let's do a little bit there, not too much. Enemy of good is better. Don't want to do too much there. Yeah, so we've got, hold it this way. Oh, Anabolic S. Have you painted any of the Night Miles Batman range? Ah, I don't have. I don't know if I have any of those, but I've got. Aren't they the same folks that make the Harry Potter figures too? I have. I think I've got Ron, Harry, and Hermione. I think I've got those three. So, oh, that reminds me. I gotta get those all set and ready to paint there. I figured I would just paint them on probably a live session like this. Now, this was the latest. I think you saw this one, right? The Captain Marvel. This was my last live session that I did earlier this week, and I've got a Voltron figure. Where the heck is he? I've got him around here somewhere too. Big old figure. He's like one of the biggest of those. Kathy has a bunch. She will be doing, well, she's going to be doing some alternate color schemes. I was going to do alternate color schemes, but I thought maybe it would be more helpful for folks if I showed them how to do probably the color schemes they're going to want to do. It won't be quite so interesting for me, but I mean, it's a way to help people out, so I'll do that. Oh, they changed their resin so it's not so fragile. Yeah, those seemed pretty spindly and delicate. Oh, and the new third edition, is it stronger? But okay. Oh, sorry, I gotta go up here. Yeah, learning curve. Once you get the trick on how you use a brand of paints, well, I was just using those Green Stuff World paints, and they act differently than every other paint. And at first I thought they were like the Reaper Clears, and I went, no, they're kind of like the Creature Caster. And well, the first thing we determined the hard way is that the they don't want to be on a wet palette. So that once I learned that, it made life a little bit easier. But this is the latest army painting series, and that was done with all the Green Stuff World paints. And we tried a different kind of basing here, the sand basing, and yep, I'm kicking up the sand there. So that was the color test figure. They also said that with the Dark Knight Rises box. But speaking of the Dark Knight, I'm going to try and get some sleep here before it becomes the light day, because sunrise is not that far away here. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on how to use your GW paints, your contrast paints, mixing them together, the Lamian medium, all that kind of fun stuff. And thanks to everybody that comes by, Tutti Fruits, Anabolic, and Comitrion, who, sorry that I'm kind of jumping off just as you got on. Oh, and Dominic, and Bethany, of course, and Electronic Hexagon. Oh, let's see, we got, and Will, and Gary, of course. And we had a first last. Everybody that showed in here. Let's see. No, Kamitra was there. Okay, good. I think I missed some of the, yeah. Missed some of the earlier messages there. But thanks again for everybody. And and I think Brian was in. Wow, that's a lot of messages there. Oh, and Oliver. It was great to see Oliver again. Oh, and Tyler. Yes. Here. I'll try and get my other. Let me get this glove off here. And we'll compare our two finished Untamed Beasts together. Oh, thanks, Bethany. Appreciate it. Yeah, this was a lot of fun here. Got our capes going, our blood effects, our foliage. This is fantastic. I'll catch you on the next one. Like I said, probably Sunday night or Monday night. One of those things. For you guys, it'll mostly be today. Oh, and please get that donation button. Well, if I can get the super chat going, that should be kind of a de facto donation button there. But thanks again, everybody. I will catch you on the next one.